We are a community of women who've come together to support each other.
Now more than ever, as women, we love community, but when you put us in a community with people who truly want to help and bring us up, it's going to inspire us.
It's so important that we support each other because everyone in life has something that they can't overcome on their own. So when you have people who are there for you through networking, mentoring, education, and enrichment, you have an opportunity to maybe get through things that you wouldn't be able to otherwise.
We believe that when women basically come together and collaborate versus compete, we're unstoppable.
One person can create a ripple effect as an influencer, but when we lock arms, we can create a groundswell. Can create a groundswell.
Hello.
And just having to stay in here, having a little table is nice. And I think it's good.
Welcome, everyone. Hello. So
testing my
excited
mic,
to have
too.
everyone here. We're going to start with a little video about the sisterhood. We are a community of women who've come together to support each other. We are a community of women who've come together to support each other.
Now more than ever, as women, we love community, but when you put us in a community with people who truly want to help and bring us up, it's going to inspire us.
It's so important that we support each other because everyone need to maybe get through things that you wouldn't be able to otherwise.
We have some favorite people in there.
Women, basically come together and collaborate versus compete. We're unstoppable.
One person can create a ripple effect as an influencer, but when we lock arms, we can create a groundswell.
So I just wanted to give everyone a little bit of backstory. So when I moved to Florida in the late 90s during the dot-com bubble and worked with a lot of tech companies and men in business. And I found a sisterhood with a lot of different women's groups. And then about 7 years ago, I went on Below Deck with 6 women, and one is here, Dale. Hello, Dale. And we had this amazing time, and that's sort of where the sisterhood was born. And so we've been putting together, Joy and I have been putting together events and charity events and hosting fundraisers. And so we want to be able to have people amplify their voices, and we have some amazing people here tonight. I know most of you know that I am co-organizer with Eric Mintz, who's in the room, with TEDx Boca Raton. And we get so many people who submit to us for TEDx, and we can't get everyone on stage, of course. So this is another opportunity for us to showcase incredible people doing really impactful things. So thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you so much for just taking your time to come and support, what we're trying to accomplish here. We truly do believe that in community, there's so much more power. We're all here. It was amazing going around talking to some of the CF moms before and just re-emphasizing, on whatever level we're put here for a purpose. And, sometimes it just takes somebody else helping you find that or giving you the courage to, to chase that dream. And it makes all the difference to go on a journey in a community together. So thank you so much for coming. And I want to give a big shout out to all the men that are wearing their pink.
Yes! Woohoo!
Thank you.
And we have a really jam-packed program with some amazing speakers. So I'm just going to go through a couple of quick slides. We have to thank Brick. They're incredible. They're also a TEDx Boca Raton partner for many years. And we're very grateful for them. And by the way, our TEDx is going to be May 20th here in this room. So mark your calendars, and the tickets are going to go on sale tomorrow, I believe. Is that right, Eric? Tickets on sale tomorrow for TEDx? Yes. Okay. So normally we do a really big event. This year we're doing a smaller version, but we've hosted them here before, and it's an incredible venue. And then, of course, I just want to thank Owl App. Jason's in the house. If you don't know Owl, we have some giveaways over there. He's incredible. I actually was thinking about the sisterhood and what we were going to be talking about tonight. And I thought there's such an amazing community of not just women here in South Florida, but men as well. And Jason's one of those community partners. That's incredible. And obviously our crunchy women who are going to be coming up on the stage. And Acton Academy is not here tonight, but it's a new school in the area in Palm Beach Gardens. Tech Hub does so much for the tech community in South Florida. And then, of course, we have all of our other sponsors here, and we're very, very grateful for them. And Living FLA, Carrie, are you here? Thank you, Carrie. I don't know what I'd do without Carrie. He, for more than decades, right, has been putting on events in South Florida. So he's been an incredible partner. I'm very grateful. So thank you.
And I just want to do one shout out to Signature MD. I personally work with them. I work in healthcare. I'm really passionate about keeping healthcare going all the way to just becoming a business. Because once you become a number in the huge hospital system, it's a hold. I was talking about that as well with some of our CF moms. And so Signature MD is really working hard to help keep primary care alive through implementing concierge membership model medicine. So whether you're a patient or you're a physician and you'd like to find out more, please reach out, because it definitely is a game changer. I'm doing my best to keep specialty groups and private practices alive.
Great. So we're going to move to the next slide. We just are literally going to take up like 2 minutes. And of course, then we're going to have Kelly and Melanie on the stage. So we'll move to the next slide. These are just some slides about the event, Sisterhood, sharing of superpowers. So we're excited to have everyone here. And next, and of course, our MAG launch. That's another thing I just wanted to mention. Like Joy and I talked about amplifying voices, and this is something that we're launching. It's actually, we're going to be doing our first story on this event, and Kelly and Melanie are going to be on the cover of our first issue. It's a digital issue, but yes. And then we're going to be telling a lot of the stories about what we're going to be speaking about tonight and hearing, and wonderful stories. And storytelling is really what makes the world go round. And this is just a snippet about the below deck, when we went on the event with the women, and it was so incredible. We had such a great time. And that was, again, one of the inspirations to put the Sisterhood together. And this, Joy, maybe you can speak to this.
This is how we met. We came together to support Fabi Powell, whose husband died to sarcoma cancer. She has an amazing story, been on an amazing journey, and we went out for the Josh Powell Foundation to raise funds for that, and that's how the story began between Cindy and I. We met each other, and since then we've been able to do amazing trips, different events like golf events. And our dream was to make this bigger and to include a lot more people in it. And that's why we're here tonight.
Yes, perfect. And yeah, so we have a lot of information tonight, and I'd love to hear from everyone in the room. And if eventually, hopefully, we can write a story about everyone, because everyone has a story, right? So we'll get started with the program. Oh, this is Kelly and Melanie's first little snippet in our magazine. So we'll be putting that online soon. Okay, so you guys are in for a huge treat tonight with Kelly and Melanie. 7 years ago, they started Crunchy Cosmetics. I'm going to let them tell the story, but their resilience, and they're just two incredible women, and you'll see when you meet them why they've been so successful. Obviously, they're very bright, and they're doing a lot of incredible things with clean cosmetics, but it's also just being humble human beings. I think that's taken them to the next level of success. So we're welcoming them to the stage. Oh, yeah, we'll get a picture with everyone. Okay, come in here.
Super awkward to be taking a picture with an audience. I was just thinking the same thing. I was just thinking the same thing. Well, thank you so much for having us tonight. It is an absolute honor to be sharing this stage with some of these incredible and very influential individuals that we get to hear from later tonight. So thank you so much for having us.
Yes, we are thrilled to be here. And I am thrilled to be on the stage with Melanie, because nowadays it's rare for us to be able to present together. We have just grown so much, and our schedules are so crazy, working the business and then having the kids and the family and all the things. I'm sure there's some people in here that can relate. You have a best friend and it takes you 4 months to schedule a dinner date, right? That's how I feel. So I'm so thrilled to be on the stage together, because normally we're having to divide and conquer. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Yes. We'll probably talk over each other a bunch. So I apologize in advance for that.
Yes. And don't worry, Kelly made me bring an outline so that we're not all here till midnight. You can thank her for that.
I'm going to keep her on track.
I tend to ramble a little. I get a little involved.
But one of the reasons why we're both here tonight is because of the purpose behind this event. When Cindy shared this event with me and talked to me about the purpose behind the event and how it's all about empowering others to then go out and create change in their communities and create that ripple effect in their communities that then turns into a wave and a movement. I told Mel, I was like, we have to figure out a way for us both to be there, because that is exactly why we started Crunchy. That was our mission, is to empower and impact lives through clean beauty so that we can create ripple effects across the nation and a movement of clean beauty. So that's exactly why we started. And so the purpose behind this event is really special to us. Very, very special to us. Okay, so out of this audience, who here has heard of our brand Crunchy with an I? Raise your hand. Okay, we've got quite a few. All right. For those of you that are new to Crunchy, we are a clean beauty brand, and we set out to really prove to the world that you could have truly safe cosmetics that didn't have any harmful ingredients or toxins and still get performance. You could still feel beautiful and confident in those cosmetics, and you could also have sustainable packaging as well. So we launched Crunchy in 2016, just up the highway, right in Stewart, so not far from here. But really, when you look at our story, it began much more before 2016. And it really began with Melanie's journey.
It did. And I know exactly, almost to the day, how long ago that journey began, because my oldest son just turned 12 not too long ago. And that is exactly what spiraled, what began and fueled my personal journey. There is something about bringing a brand new 6-pound little being into the world that causes one to open their eyes around them and look at the world that they live in, look at their environment a little differently than they did before. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I know that I've talked to many, many, many parents that have had a similar experience. That was the time in my life when I really started to pay attention to what I was eating, what I was bringing into my home. I was switching over to organic foods. I was switching over to non-GMO foods and learning about these chemicals that we're spraying our crops with to boost growth at the end of harvest and what they were doing to our environment, what they were doing to our bodies. I was paying attention for the first time of what I was bringing into my home to clean my home, what I was spraying on my lawn, what I was bringing in to do our laundry. For the first time, I started opening my eyes and kind of asking questions and paying a little closer attention just to make sure that this was going to be safe for this little vulnerable being I brought home from the hospital with me. And I was living in Seattle, Washington at the time, and I was actually practicing as a nurse practitioner. I'm a family nurse practitioner, board certified as my main career, and I was practicing at the time. And then after I had my son, I switched to part-time and was home with him for a while. And one of my nurse practitioner colleagues encouraged me to check out this women's group in Seattle. And she didn't give me a whole lot of information, but it turned out to be my absolute favorite group that I think I could ever belong to. It fit perfectly. I said to Melissa earlier, I truly had found my people. So it was a very Crunchy with a Y group, if you follow me. And if you don't, you might in a few minutes. So basically, we would sit around, if you can picture this room of about 20 brand new moms. All parents were welcome, but at this particular time, it was moms with newborn babies. And it was facilitated by a master's prepared nurse. And she would come and just basically open up the floor for any questions and have conversations, and people would recommend certain products. And so you'd learn, okay, what's a great, what's a safe diaper cream that you can use, or what's a great XYZ. And we covered all the topics from baby-led weaning to co-sleeping to how to encourage your newborn to get proper sources of iron naturally through blackstrap molasses. I mean, it was Crunchy with a Y, and I loved every second of it, and I soaked it all up, and it was my people for sure. So if you weren't sure what Crunchy with an I meant coming in, and you may still not, it stems from, it's essentially our chic, sophisticated, polished version of Crunchy with a Y, if that makes sense. So it was something that we wanted to stand behind, because let's be honest, we don't really look crunchy in the definition that one might find in the Urban Dictionary, but we're definitely crunchy, and something we felt like we wanted to make sure we were proud of. So yes, I had officially found my people, and I would show up with a list of questions, and I would come home with a notebook of notes, and it was just the best, soaking up all the new things as a new mom, just learning everything. And one day, I was sitting there with this group, and this gal raised her hand, and she asked the group, and she said, I'm having a hard time finding a safe mascara. She said, I went on the website, the CWG Skin Deep website, and I've been searching, and I was looking up the ratings, and I've tried every one of them, and they are all awful, and I can't find one that works. She said, does anybody have any recommendations? And I sat there, and I looked at her, and I said, what the heck did she just say? I have no idea what she was talking about. What does she mean? What does she mean? And so I wrote down that website that she mentioned. And that night, I just happened to have the anti-sleeper of newborn babies, like many can relate with. So I'm up in the middle of the night with a little flashlight, probably a cell phone. I don't know what I was up with, but I'm scrolling through, doing my research with my little notebook and trying to figure out what this website was. And like what I realized is I had accidentally, inadvertently kind of pulled back a curtain that I didn't know existed. And I was suddenly seeing all of this information that I'd never been presented with before. So like many, I had assumed my entire life that the FDA regulated cosmetics and that they're safe if they're allowed to be on the shelves here in the United States, right? Makes logical sense. What I was learning is that that's actually far from the truth. The federal law that governs the US $100 billion cosmetic industry is 2.5 pages long of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. 2.5 pages long. And guess when it was written? 1938. So more than 80 years, over 80 years it had been since this was written, and it was 2.5 pages. I mean, talk about the wild, wild west. I had no idea. So anyway, I kept digging. I was like, this can't be right. I kept digging. I learned that the cosmetic industry uses roughly 10,000 industrial chemical ingredients in personal care products, and the majority of them have never been assessed for safety by any public entity, any reputable organization. I learned that the average American uses over 168 chemicals a day on average on their largest organ, which is their skin, their largest organ. Did anybody here know any of this coming into this tonight? Okay, it's definitely getting out there. I learned that these toxic chemical ingredients end up inside of our bodies, they end up inside of our breast milk, and they end up inside of our babies. And when I say that, I mean literally. In 2005, the EWG organization conducted a study, and they tested the cord blood of newborn babies, and they found 287 independent toxic chemicals that should not be there in the cord blood of newborn babies. What? What? It's absolutely crazy. All of these chemicals, what is crazy too, is they all go down the drain. They end up in our waterways, they're in our air, they're in our pollution, they are in our everywhere, and they get into our food, and because they're in our soil, they are everywhere. It is inevitable, like it or not, every one of us in this room are carrying around toxic chemicals from our environment. And here I was, a board certified family nurse practitioner. And ironically, the reason I went into this career was because I loved how much focus on prevention there was. I loved that disease prevention, health promotion aspect of the career, which is why I chose it over any other healthcare option. That's why I went that direction. And it blew my mind that I had never heard of any of this information before. See, in healthcare, and I know we've got some healthcare individuals in the group today, in healthcare, disease prevention, health promotion means, did you get your mammogram? Have you had your colonoscopy? Are you taking calcium and vitamin D? Are you due for your bone density scan? That's prevention. It wasn't, what's in the ingredients of the deodorant you're wearing? Is there aluminum? Are you lathering your largest organ, your skin, with endocrine disruptors and carcinogens inadvertently? Are you pumping your house full of VOCs through fragrance, like air fresheners and dryer sheets, those ones that you can smell a block away when you're walking your dog? That can't be good for you, and it's not. Those were not the things I was taught in nurse practitioner school, not even close, none of it. I think I got one semester of nutrition, and it was definitely not crunchy nutrition, I can tell you that. So this is definitely something that opened my eyes. So in 2012, when my son was 18 months old, my husband and my son and I picked up and we left Seattle, Washington, and we moved all the way across the country to South Florida for a 2-year contract that turned into 11 and a half years and still going. But thank goodness we did, because if I hadn't, I would not have met this incredible woman standing on stage next to me. And I cannot imagine life without that. So thank goodness that choice was made in 2012.
I'm not sure you always feel that way. But no, so Mel and I met, 10 years ago? Maybe, yes, 2012. You're right, 11 years ago.
Yep.
Yep. And we actually met at a mom's night out, and we hit it off instantly. We had children the same age, and we were both, shortly after that, both pregnant with our second child. And we were on similar journeys. Melanie was obviously on a toxin-free journey, and I was just beginning mine. I had lost my dad to cancer. I had infertility in my family. I had friends that were facing infertility. And I, like Melanie, started to look at what was going on and pull back the curtain and see, wow, there's a lot of toxins out there in the world. How can I start to limit these for myself and for my family? So really bonded over that journey, switching over, everything from food to clothing to cleaning products to toothpaste, whatever it was. We would be so excited when we found a brand that we liked and that worked and was clean. We'd share and get all excited. So we really bonded over that journey. But the one area that we could not find was cosmetics, beauty, skincare. We could not find a brand that was doing it well, that was doing clean beauty well. We couldn't find anyone that had truly safe ingredients and the performance. We would find ones that were really safe and they had beautiful ingredients. There were no toxins in them. They looked great. But then when we went to go use them, it was awful. You try to put the foundation on and it literally would not even smear. You'd just be like stuck there. You would put your eyeshadow on and an hour later you'd be like, do I even have eyeshadow on? Did I forget to put it on? The performance was not there. So we were so frustrated with the clean options and kept trying brand after brand after brand. And then we'd find one. We're like, oh gosh, this one says organic, natural. This is it. Oh, and it works. We'd be so excited. And then Mel would do her amazing research, because she's the research one, and dive into the ingredients. And we realized, oh my gosh, it's filled with the same toxins as the conventional ones. We got greenwashed. Who here has heard that term, greenwashed? Okay, yeah. There's a lot of greenwashing going on where it's marketed as safe, marketed as natural, marketed as organic. And like Mel said, there's no laws to really, inhibit that. So it's marketed that way, but yet it's filled with toxins. And there's nothing more frustrating than getting greenwashed, because you feel, like you've been taken advantage of. And we were just so frustrated. And so I did some thinking, and I thought, gosh, shouldn't someone come up with a brand where you don't have to compromise? You can have truly clean products that actually perform. Like, why do you have to compromise performance or safety? Can't you have both? And I kept thinking, and I thought, gosh, we should do that. With Melanie's knowledge and all of our research, like, we could totally do this. So I'm like, Mel, I called her up. I'm like, Mel, guess what? I had the best idea. You know how we're so frustrated we can't find one? We need to create our own. And I was like, Mel, what do you think? And she said,
absolutely not.
She was like, no, hard no.
Not a chance. We each had a 1.5 and a barely 4-year-old between each of us. So four total. How on earth would we do that? How on earth? There was no way, at least for a few minutes. And then my entrepreneurial wheels started turning, and I have to admit, I really, really, really like a challenge, and especially one that sparks my interest. So I eventually gave in, and we were on our way.
We were on our way. It didn't take long. It did not take long. But I will say, we quickly realized why no one was doing clean beauty well, because it was really hard. It was really, really hard. We faced so many challenges early on. That we got so many no's, so many doors shut in our face. I mean, it was grueling early on, but we just kept with it. And we kept going. And there are times where we would get really far, and all of a sudden it'd be like, oh, wait, you have to compromise. Hold on. To go to the next step, you have to compromise with this ingredient, or compromise here. And I'll never forget the first time I got asked to compromise, what Mel said. She's got lots of good quotes. What Mel said. Do you remember what you said?
If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. And I meant it. I did. I
she
meant
did.
it. I put my foot down. I wasn't going to waste my time just to become another greenwasher. That's the path of least resistance. That's easy. And it would have been silly.
Yep. So we stuck with it. We never gave up. And we eventually launched Crunchy out of my home in 2016. We did not have any employees. We did not have an office. We did not have a website to order. You had to fill out a hand order form.
For real.
Yes, for real. Yep. So,
Or you could call in. It's very efficient.
but one thing that we did have was a vision, and it was to impact and empower lives through clean beauty and prove to so many people that you don't have to compromise. You can have both. You can have clean, truly clean products that actually perform, and you can package it sustainably. And over the past 7 years, we've done just that. We are now a multi-million-dollar brand. We have a fulfillment center, our own fulfillment center of over 10,000 square feet. We have a corporate office, no longer in my guest bedroom. We have, just under 50 employees, and it's been an unbelievably wild ride. And what we realized is we were not the only ones that were looking for clean beauty. Thank you. And it's funny because that all sounds so amazing, but the most important thing to us and what's really been the most impactful is the purpose behind it and the impact that we've had on others' lives through sharing clean beauty and sharing the toxin-free lifestyle, because it goes so much further than just products and clean beauty. We're creating those ripple effects, right? And so across the nation, we're creating these ripple effects that are turning into a wave, that are becoming part of that clean beauty movement. And that's been one of the most impactful pieces. So today we're sharing a little bit of our story, but also just the educational piece. And Mel, I know you want to touch a little bit more on some of that education, because that really is the most important part.
Yes, and I know you mentioned this, but our philosophy has always been, if you start with that base of education, it creates ripples, and it's so coincidental that was something that you mentioned when it comes to this organization as well. So that's it was meant to be, very aligned. But when I was working in family practice for so many years, I think the part that made me so frustrated was just how much I was treating illness. It was just so illness focused and so medication focused, so much illness focused, and not enough of that prevention that I was talking about earlier. And perfect examples is I would get whole families coming in my office, and they would be dealing with just chronic allergies, asthma, eczema, all of them, and on all of these meds. I mean, sometimes it would be 10 medications just to manage all of these. And at no point, I think the part that just blew my mind is that no point, not one time in their time that they've been suffering from this, did anybody stop to ask them the questions, the right questions, to at least explore what's going on at home. And I don't mean pet dander and carpet. What's going on at home beyond that? What are you bringing into your house? What are you putting on your skin? Is there a chance that something could be triggering this? Is there something that could be affecting your body, that could be causing these? And I can't tell you how often I would have families come back and thank me because no one had ever mentioned this before. And what I'm referring to oftentimes is synthetic fragrance, for example, is something that can exacerbate all of these things, asthma, allergies, and it's in everything. Synthetic fragrance is hidden in everything. It is one of those ingredients by itself that has its own special loophole, hopefully not for much longer. I can get to that in a second, but has its own little loophole where you can have 2,000 individual separate ingredients within that one word fragrance on an ingredient label, and that can disguise, because of the proprietary laws that allows companies to disguise whatever they want within that, and they do not have to declare it. So who the heck knows what is in them? So I touched on it before, but pumping through the air, on their skin, everywhere, it really can affect the health of so many individuals. And, not for everyone, but there were so many people, but by simply removing those things, it not only helped, but oftentimes allowed them to get off of their medications completely, because that was the underlying cause that was triggering them. Another thing that we've seen is there's this big push for paraben removal. Everybody says paraben free. It's a big marketing claim. And what happened with that push, and it's because parabens mimic estrogen. So they're an endocrine disruptor, a hormone disruptor, not something you want to mess with. And especially somebody that's pregnant or someone that's young or and growing, or hasn't even gone through puberty yet. And by removing those parabens, a lot of times they've replaced it with a chemical called methylethiothiozolinone. Now you're all going to say that with me, right? Methylethiothiozolinone. It's on. Watch for it. You'll see it. It's the new paraben because it's dirt cheap and it works really well because you need preservatives in your product. It's just you do, especially if it's got a water base. And unfortunately, that one very quickly rose to the top in terms of the American Dermatology Association when it comes to causing dermatitis. And it causes all these people are getting now these rashes and this eczema, washing their hands, something so simple, just because we're trying to do better. But it's very complicated and it's definitely tricky. So another thing that stands out to me so vividly that I just wanted to touch on briefly is, well, two things. One is, just like I did, so many of these patients felt, okay, just because it's on the shelf, it's safe. Just because it's on the shelf, it's safe. Unfortunately, here in the US, that's currently not the case. Other countries are so far ahead of us. Other countries have had this figured out for decades. Other countries, we need to pay attention to what they're doing. I'm talking about the EU and Australia and Canada and Japan. These countries have it figured out and have much tighter regulations. So when companies make a certain formula for this country that they make different for the ones in Canada and the EU, you better believe that happens all the time. It fuels us. It makes us so mad. But another thing that came so vividly a memory that was very frustrating as a healthcare provider is I remember I had a 40-year-old patient that came in and she sat down and she said, Melanie, so she was just diagnosed with breast cancer a few days prior. And she came in and she sat down, 40 years old, and she said, Melanie, I do not understand. She said, I have no family history of breast cancer. I'm a runner. I'm healthy. I eat healthy. I pay attention to everything. I do not understand what is going on. Why, how did this happen? And I felt so helpless as a healthcare provider in those moments because I had no explanation for her. And one thing that I did learn in this journey is that, and I like to share with people, is that 90 to 95% of all cancers that exist today are due to environmental factors that are in our control, in our environment, which means 5 to 10% are related to genetics. That is the complete opposite of what I was taught in school. Complete opposite. We were drilling people about family history left and right. That was how you knew what you were predisposed for. And it is absolutely the reverse. And when I'm talking about the environment, it's all those factors that we listed before. So that is something that just to this day stands out to me. And something, did anybody in this room know that before today? Yeah, a couple of you did, but not everyone. It's definitely something to just take home with you today and think about, because it's worth paying attention and starting to look a little closer. And fortunately, this information is beginning to get out. I mean, my journey started 12 years ago. And it's been amazing to see the strides that have happened in that time. And it's definitely being more well known to the consumer. And fortunately, for the first time since 1938, we have actually seen some improvements in the cosmetic safety regulation. We have a long way to go, but as recently as 6 months ago, we have had some improvements. So that is fantastic. And there's on the state level and the federal things happening. So we are definitely making ripples there, which is very exciting. And that's something that we work on behind the scenes on some of that legislation and helping move companies and make them responsible for these things. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, they are responsible for what we're putting in the hands of consumers. And then fortunately, there are more trusted resources available that can guide us to make better, safe, conscious choices. And that's something that we're very grateful for.
Yes. And one of the things that has really driven us with Crunchy and just this education is the passion behind this education, just how powerful this information is. I'm watching some of the faces in here as Melanie's speaking. I'm seeing light bulbs, go off and, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. So this information is so powerful. And we at Crunchy love the power of this information and the educational piece. And that's really the backbone to our advocate program. Our advocate program is kind of like, it's a cross between affiliates, social selling, direct sales, kind of a mix there. And it's a way for us to be able to link arms with like-minded individuals across the nation and share this education and create these ripple effects. We've got some advocates in the room here tonight, and it's one of our really most proud of communities is our advocate community because of the impact they're having in the world and the community that they give to each other as far as walking with somebody on this toxin-free journey. So we have people that are brand new, don't even know anything about, this is the first time they've ever thought about it, that are a part of that community, as well as those that are really well-versed. So it's a great community to be a part of as well in that regards. But it's unbelievable to see the impact that we are having through that program. So if you guys want to learn more about our products, our mission, the advocate opportunity, you can check us out at crunchy.com. It's crunchy with an I.com. And then there's also some great resources like Mel was saying to tap into. The one that we recommend is Safe Cosmetics, and it's the campaign of Safe Cosmetics, and the website is safecosmetics.org. That is a great source of information and a great tool. Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Yes. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully our story, impacted you to create ripple effects in your communities and wherever you go. Thank you so much.
These ladies are so humble. I know they were talking about 50 employees, but like Kelly said and Melanie, they're literally creating ripples of women across the nation who are just getting educated about clean cosmetics. So I am going to bring up our next panel. We're having a panel next, and we're going to, we just need to put the chairs up. Ladies, for the next panel, we have Amila and Nikki and Debbie and Dale, health tech panel. Yeah, we'll leave this. They're just going to bring the chairs up. So you were in for another treat with these ladies. I've been lucky enough to be at a few events and have heard them speak before, and you're going to be incredibly blown away, very impressive, and learn a lot from them as well. Okay, we're going to welcome you up to the stage. Nikki, thank you. Nikki is CEO of Tech Hub, building the tech community throughout South Florida, and she's a rock star. If you don't know her, these are women that you definitely want to meet. We have microphones for everybody? Share. No, we have 3, I think, up here. Oh, I see. Thank you, ladies.
Yes, it's on. All right. So I actually wanted to, you want me to? Yeah, I can do that. Bring it in this way. Good? Okay. Well, so before I get started, I have a couple of things, as I wanted to say thank you to these ladies who actually just made me think of, I actually used to work at a holistic healthcare institute. And when I started working there, that a lot of people, and including myself, when I started working there, thought a lot of it was a little bit cray-cray and a little bit, tree hugger. But then when I saw the difference in the patients that came through, it's real. So yes, and I know it's hard. So you guys are doing a great job. Also I wanted to just draw attention to the wonderful Beth Wagmeister really quickly as well before we get started with our panel. Something that I'm trying to do is with our organization at Tech Hub is trying to bring inclusivity. I know a lot of times when we talk about inclusivity, we're talking about skin color, but it's also with people that have disabilities that may not be visible to the eye. So we just want to make sure, because we do have people that are part of the deaf and hard of hearing community, and making sure that they also, get access to wonderful events like this. So she'll be up here with me. So I'm going to start this off by just saying, which I'll talk a little bit about, but I also came from, before I got into tech, came from the beauty care industry, healthcare industry, a little bit of all that for about 20 years before I just went cold turkey into tech. And so this is kind of perfect. I feel like right behind you guys. So I'm loving this already. But I think that when we look at the history of women and we're talking about healthcare and wellness, a lot of times people would immediately go, oh yeah, nurses, that's what they do, And so there's a lot of women in nursing. And for some cultures, that's actually very a pushed kind of field for them to be in. Culturally, is like, you have to be a nurse, you have to be a nurse. But now we have a lot of women that are becoming founders, they're CEOs, they're inventors, they're investors, they're, top leading innovators in the industry. And I think that's what, is really interesting now, and what we want to talk about is that change. And like, we're not just not just nurses now, that we're actually leading a lot of the push in technology and healthcare and wellness overall. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the wellness side today for our panel. So I know healthcare is, typically, the disease or lack of disease in our bodies, but we're going to be talking about more about wellness and disease. Healthcare is more of that noun, right? It's how is your body right now? But we're not talking about that, because we know a lot of times when we talk about that, immediately goes to healthcare providers and doctors. We're going to be talking about the wellness side of it, and the verb and the action of actually being preventative, taking control of your own healthcare and your own wellness, so that you do have a lack of disease in your body. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about. So to help me out, so I don't get this wrong, I'm going to read your bios as I introduce our different panelists. So our first panelist here, all the way to, I guess, my far left, your right, Maggie Solomon. Maggie is the Director of Strategic Innovations at DSS, which is a leading healthcare solutions provider based in, is it Jupiter? Palm Beach Gardens? Yes. Jupiter. Juno Beach, that area. Okay. With over a decade of experience in the industry, Maggie is responsible for driving innovation and developing new solutions. As a strategic thinker, passionate about leveraging technology, as she is constantly seeking new ways to use data, AI, or artificial intelligence, for anybody that may not know, and emerging tech to improve the global community. Maggie is also the chair at our organization, South Florida Tech Hub's Health Tech and Life Sciences Committee, a member of the Palm Beach North Chamber's Life Science Committee as well, and a member of HIMSS, which is also another local, national healthcare organization. So welcome, Maggie.
Thank you.
Next, and you guys are actually sitting in perfect order. We didn't plan this, but next we have Debbie Dickinson. Debbie is, oh yeah, there you go, round of applause. Got some fans in the room. Debbie Dickinson is a Harvard graduate with extensive experience in law and business. She is also the co-founder of Thermaband, a company that specializes in providing innovative solutions for menopause symptoms. Debbie's passionate for helping women navigate this difficult phase of life that led her to develop the Thermaband menopause band, which uses heat therapy to alleviate hot flashes and other symptoms. Her dedication to improving women's health has earned her recognition and accolades in the medical and business communities. So welcome, Debbie. And of course, last but not least, Dale Noel is the founder and CEO of True Model Management, a leading, round of applause, got some fans there too. A leading modeling agency based in New York City, dedicated to representing and promoting diverse models. With over 2 decades of experience in the fashion industry, Dale, a former model herself, has been a champion for inclusivity and body positivity, recognized by organizations such as Forbes and Women's Wear Daily. As a survivor of oral cancer, she raises awareness about the disease, working with institutions like NYU and FIT to educate students about the importance of early detection and prevention. So welcome, Dale. And lastly, I'll quickly introduce myself. I'll be your moderator today. So my name again is Nikki Caboose. I'm the CEO of South Florida Tech Organization, and South Florida Tech Hub. We are basically a nonprofit organization that ranges across all of South Florida. So starting in Miami, all the way up through the Treasure Coast, so about Indian River. So anything you could think of that's tech and innovation, that's kind of what we do. And like I said a little bit earlier, this is actually perfect for me, and I'm loving these discussions because coming from, beauty, healthcare, all of that for about 20 years, and then coming to tech now, I think I've been 5-6 years, I don't even know. It's kind of cool to be able to bring them both together. So thank you. All right. So how we're going to do this, I know we don't have a ton of time, so I'm going to try to make this easy. Is we're actually going to divide the conversation into talking about our professional journeys, going to personal, and then we have a fun little kind of fireside, rapid round that we're going to do at the end. So I'm going to start with Maggie. So can you talk a little bit about the shift to the consumer-based model in healthcare? We know that a lot of times it's been away from the consumer's hands, and it's always been in the doctor's or physician's hands, and how that's accelerated the wellness industry overall, like giving people that control.
Sure. So how many of you are wearing an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or some type of device that's probably told you to stand up a few times since we started, right? Okay. So we have actually, healthcare has always been a lagger in technology. We've always followed the financial industry. The financial industry has always been an accelerator. And over the last 3 years, we have accelerated by 10 years. And that's not an exaggeration. I mean, 10 years. And so we have really, really accelerated in technology. Technology has become a catalyst to give all of you, ownership into your healthcare. And what I mean by that is if you look at all of the technologies you have today, so you have your Fitbit, there's a lot of remote patient monitoring, especially for chronic disease patients. So chronic disease patients, they have their blood pressure cuffs, they have their glucose monitoring. And a lot of people are using glucose monitoring for biohacking. Do we have any biohackers in the audience? No? No biohackers? I think we have one. Go see Kate if you want to biohack. So what they're doing is they're using technologies that have already been in use to understand how their body is uniquely reacting and responding to foods, to exercise, to just your external environment that allows you to empowers you to take action in your healthcare. And now what we're seeing in the healthcare space within, the hospitals, we're going beyond the brick and mortar, right? You go into a hospital, they take your vitals, and then you leave. But a lot happens outside of that. And so what providers are looking for is all of these devices have Bluetooth monitoring. It's already innate in the technology. We're already there. And so it gives the providers access to be able to monitor you while you leave the hospital. They don't want you in the hospital anymore, right? They want you in and out as soon as possible. It's too costly. But we have the technology that it still allows you to have the monitoring when you're at home, right, for those chronic disease patients. But those that are healthy, we have the technology that gives you the power to have preventative care. Because as Melanie and Kelly mentioned, it's been a very reactive system for many, many years. And now you are empowered to have preventative action. We're also looking at whole health. So something that our primary customer with DSS is the Department of Veteran Affairs. So we treat veterans, and there's a lot of post-traumatic stress. And there's also just overall mental health. 22 veterans commit suicide a day. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that statistic. 22. And that has been a statistic for many, many years. And so when you look at that and you look at what technologies can be put in place to allow us to have real-time access and to give them tools to empower themselves, the VA is actually moving. There's an initiative called Whole Health. So it's giving them tools and the power to be able to monitor their health beyond just brick and mortar healthcare, looking at mindset, sleep. So now we have devices that tell us how we sleep, exercise, meditation. So it's looking at your community, your environment. So, I believe in the next few years, we're going to have the power, especially with the technologies we have today, to really drive our healthcare and also contribute to what our providers are doing in the brick and mortar facilities.
Thank you, Maggie. That was like a perfect description.
Destigmatize, normalize, talk about, build communities, which is what we've done. And my daughter at the time was actually getting her MBA and was interested in entrepreneurial pursuits. So her mother calls and said, "Okay, we need a tech solution." And in talking to her contemporaries is when she realized that her contemporaries, 20-somethings, were experiencing hot flashes because they, were fighting cancer. So breast cancer, chemo, so chemo-induced menopause, and folks with thyroid conditions, and it was more pervasive than we realized. So it's surgical, medical, as well as natural menopause. So you think of cancer survivors or patients, you think of hysterectomies if both ovaries are removed. There's so many folks. Hysterectomy is the second most common surgery in this country, and I actually have a family member who went in for a hysterectomy because she had lots of fibroids and just picked up a flyer waiting to go back for the procedure and read in this flyer that, hot flashes and menopause is kind of a side effect of what this procedure does. So she's like, wait, before I go back, she has on her, her little coat, the little, she's going back for this procedure. And it's like, oh yeah, it's just, if we don't discuss it, we don't. So there are so many people who have procedures and now dealing with really debilitating hot flashes, and which is not hot flash and night sweats. That's the night ones. So of course, sleep disturbance, and it's just not shared. So to your point, many people are just suffering in silence. So we're talking half the population who will experience menopause. Who knows that there are 34 symptoms? Actually, the UK recognizes 48 symptoms. Who recognizes that symptoms can start far earlier than you think. You think, all right, I kind of heard that word before. I had not heard the word perimenopause. So it was, 51, first hot flash. Then there's a new vocabulary. There is this education. There's understanding our bodies. So it was really important I didn't want my two daughters to, feel as unprepared as I did. And I didn't want other women to go through that. So it was important to start talking from an educational standpoint. And then, gee, why are we ashamed? Why is there so much stigma? Why is there discrimination relative to ageism? And it was just there's so many, as you mentioned, so many people just feel uncomfortable, and I'm not there yet. Is the term that drives me nuts. And it was where is there, right? So there, and part of the education is understanding what's happening with our bodies, normalizing, there is nothing wrong, just as we had puberty, we will have menopause. There's a sunrise and sunset to our reproductive years, and it's fine. We have the rest of our lives. And, the empowerment aspect, I think, is very important. So, to understand, share information, form communities, have resources, and then a part of that is really the solutions. So it's developing technological solutions as well. And 93% of women, as a survey, wanted a non-invasive tech solution. So with my story, experiencing hot flashes, trying so many things, as so many women do, and just not pleased with the amount of, or the lack of resources. And then recognizing that with technology, not really harnessing the types of technology that we can relative to that. So we created a device that harnesses the science of thermoregulation. So what we knew just through the developing this community, we realized that so many people were doing very non-tech things. You put your hand on a granite countertop, you put your hand on the cold running water, you stick your head in the freezer, you have a fan, there's a cool sensation during a hot flash, or when you're uncomfortably hot or cold, helps. So why is that? And it was really the understanding the science of thermoregulation, which is really using receptors on the body and introducing heating or cooling sensations, which then stimulates the body's thermoregulatory center, which is what helps us with our perception of comfort. So, you hold on to something cold when you're having a hot flash, you feel good. That's the science behind it. Well, why can't we use technology to make temperature portable? Why can't we have that cool sensation? Why do we have to be tethered to a faucet and the freezer? So basically, we have a smart wearable that provides discrete preemptive sensations using the receptors on our inner wrist. And then the women said, hey, we want data. We want to understand what's happening with our bodies. There's a direct correlation with the vasomotor symptoms or hot flashes and health outcomes. So we want to understand what's happening, with our biometrics, so we can share this information with our physicians, so we can understand ourselves what's happening with our bodies. And so all that is wrapped into what we're doing, really to help individuals as they manage their own symptoms, and to share information with clinicians for remote monitoring, and really just to advance our healthcare.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I looked at Maggie at one point when you gave a statistic, and I think we had the same reaction, like, I didn't know that. So I definitely learned something. And I have to say, I think what you're doing is wonderful, just because I have 2 kids. So my older one is a boy, and I've always been trying to be very open with him about, what happens to girls' bodies and why they react certain ways and why you should be supportive in these areas. But menopause is not one thing I even thought about. So now I'm going to go want to research it and then teach him about menopause. He's probably gonna be like, Mom, where did this come from?
Yeah, my husbands and sons know way more than.
Yeah. I know. Last time we had a talk with my son, he's like, I know, Mom, I know I have to treat the girls like this because, and I'm like, okay, just making sure we're good. So Dale, next question is for you. So first thing I thought of when I was reading your bio and figured out that you'd be a panelist is that I immediately thought of modeling agencies always don't get the best rap, right? When it comes to, the visibility of what models look like and how they're treated and their own health. And so can you tell us a little bit about how you're changing that for the models themselves, but then also how we're viewing models, the consumers of that?
Sure. Well, to give you a little history, True Model Management was founded on the basis of education and connecting people and also empowering others. And originally it was not set out to actually be a business. I was a successful model, and it was in name only to invoice clients, basically. But for the 20 years that I was modeling, I was always meeting people. I had extra work. I would teach them, train them, try and get them work either directly with clients or, bring them to other agencies to sign with. And when I got pregnant and cancer at the same time, my career came to a halt and I had big bills, a jet set lifestyle. And I said, okay, well, I need to create something overnight basically and continue. And I founded True Model Management of Today, where I manage other models. So from the beginning, it was an extension of my personal journey. And from the beginning, I always found beauty in all types of people. My friends are from every country, every size. I never thought about it. Wasn't trending when True Model Management had models of all sizes, shapes, and colors and ethnicities. And we gained great popularity in the beginning because major agencies would call us and say, oh, we need like a plus size model and we don't have anyone over a size 6. So we were what they call in the industry mother agency for some of the major agencies, which now everyone has all sizes, shapes, and ethnicities. But when we founded it, the culture of our business was an extension of my personality, I guess. And that's how it all began. And since I started it while I had cancer and pregnant, I was very focused on health. And I became a health coach during that time, right around the time I started True as well. And I brought that to True. When people would walk in the door, always the first question was, how much weight do I need to lose? I was like, don't lose any weight. Are you happy? Are you healthy? Are you confident? Is this who you want to be? And this is what you want to continue? And if someone said, I want to lose weight, I want to gain weight, I love the way I am, whatever they said, I would say, I want to help you be your happiest and healthiest you. And once you feel confident and I'll introduce you to photographers, we'll take your pictures, I'll teach you whatever I know, and then we'll present you to clients. So just let's walk the journey together first to find the best you, and then empower yourself and set that out to the world. And people are recognizing beauty in all different ways nowadays. So I feel very proud that and happy that the industry is making some great strides to accept all people.
That is, I have to say, that's a beautiful story, but it's often out of hardship comes some of the most beautiful and wonderful things. We just don't realize it in the moment. So I definitely commend you for where you took that and turned it into a positive. So we talked a little bit about professional. So now we're going to turn it to the personal side. So I'm going to start with you again, pick on you first, Maggie. So I know a little bit about like what you love to do in your personal time outside of work, but what I wanted to ask you was when we talk about wellness, we often think about what we eat, working out. People don't really talk normally about the spiritual, mental aspect of it. So can you talk a little bit about what you do personally to keep your own well-being and wellness outside of work?
Sure. So how many people do some type of mindfulness practice? Oh, awesome. That's amazing. So I started my personal mindfulness journey a few years ago, and it was really all under, it's not just doing an act of meditation, right? Or whatever it is that you're doing. It's, and releasing that dopamine or that serotonin and then getting up and going back to your old self, right? It's really having the power of self-awareness. I think that's the most powerful tool that we can all have. And what I mean by that is most of the time we're not present, right? We're not present in what we're doing. We're either on the run, we're on autopilot. Many people that are moms and have your house to take care of, you have your son to take care of. My little guy's right there. Got to give him a little shout out. But you have your, family to take care of, and then you're expected to work and continue and so on and so forth. And so we're operating on autopilot. And what I've learned is that through my own journey of just self-awareness is really pausing and understanding who am I being in this moment. I've been very fortunate to grow up with a mom who's been in personal development my whole life. So I've seen that. And one of the things that I was raised with, the mentality is really understanding that everything is happening for you, not to you. And I've lived by that, things that I want to happen, things that I, wish to happen. If it doesn't work out, it's not meant for me. And so being in such a male dominated industry, I don't know if you all are aware that tech is like majority male. And I started 17 years ago. I was the only woman in the room. And I walked in the room with the mindset of, I'm the only woman in the room. And I would carry this energy like I was intimidated, like I had all this anxiety. And that's what I got in return. And so when I understood that my mindset was actually what's impacting my environment, and I shifted the way I thought, and I read some amazing Harvard studies that says that women bring innovation. Ladies, y'all bring innovation. Is that I started to understand, wait, I'm bringing value. I'm the only woman in the room. See the difference between I'm the only woman in the room versus I am the only woman in this room. So I would walk in there with the mindset that I am going to bring something different. And I swear to you, it has been transformational. The rooms haven't changed. The people have not changed. I changed. So when it comes to working on, mental health just for myself, it's really being self-aware of how am I being in this moment, and what am I attracting, and how can I change and shift that? And it's okay to have a bad day or a bad moment, but don't make that your life, right? We got to get out of that moment. So a friend of mine has a rule, and it's a great rule. Your moment shouldn't last more than a song. So cry it out, dance it out, do whatever you got to do, but let that moment be gone. So yeah.
So I feel like I just went to church for a second, because the minute that you just said, like, I am the only, I felt myself sit up in my chair a little bit, like, that's right. I physically felt myself like, yeah, that's right. I am a woman. So take that.
We do love you guys, though. The guy gang
We
that's
love
in
the
here.
men, yes. All right. So Debbie, next question for you. Again, keeping with the personal theme here. So we were talking about how a lot of these topics that we talk about, especially menopause, is very taboo. I know I can only speak from coming from the Latin community in my family. I know that the Black community has to be very similar, maybe even worse, that a lot of these topics are really not discussed, and they're more than taboo. It's, at least for my home, it's like we don't talk about those things. So my question to you is, not only with what you're doing for women in general, can you talk a little bit about being a Black woman in the space and how that's changing you and your outlook for future generations, and especially working with your daughter? Like, what's your I guess goal for future generations, or how's that outlook changing for you as a Black woman in this space?
Yeah, to whom much is given, much is expected. So I really feel very blessed in terms of opportunities and in terms of educational preparedness. I feel and a strong faith, right? So I was blessed to grow up in a family of Jamaican roots, so it was 11 years in Jamaica. Woohoo! And then migrated to this country. And I didn't recognize until later what a gift that was, because there was such a strong foundation that I brought with me, just in terms of who I am. Everyone was Jamaican, didn't matter what you look like. I mean, and whole heap of Jamaican have different skin color and eye color and all that kind of stuff. But so I was accustomed to people looking different, but being one, right? We spoke the same language. We kind of sounded the same, even though we kind of looked different, and we were capable of just about anything. And so to migrate to a country, and which was different, but to have that really helped a lot. And what it sparked in me was, this the need for excellence, and to really, do my best, give my best, and I share that because it's really the foundation of what has driven me throughout my career, my life, right? So I couldn't change a lot of things, right? You come to a country and you realize something is different, we're treating it a little different. I can't quite, I'm just 11, I'm just can't put my finger on it, but people expect less of me and think a little, and I don't know what it is, but I feel it, I sense it, I see it. But one thing that they can't take from me is I'm going to be the best at any darn thing I do, right? So you know, there you bring, or that really helped to shape that, and recognizing that, you know, that we're dealing with a lot of different things, and then flip to what I'm doing now relative to menopause and to healthcare, and recognizing the impact on people, women of color especially, right? So we have to have conversations. We need to talk about what's happening with our bodies. We need to recognize the disparate impact of women of color who experience, you know, whether it's healthcare, women's, you know, it's just within the last 30 years that women were even included in research. You know, prior to that, everything was men, and typically white men. And then it was extrapolated in terms of females. So, you know, to you know, have a voice, recognize the importance of women, and then recognizing, you know, from a cultural standpoint, the differences, and the need to really, you know, to find solutions and to give folks a voice, and to really, you know, be present, and bring to the table the different issues and the different voices. So the having community, you know, having community that is very diverse on all levels, and creating, you know, a space where we can talk about what's happening with our bodies, talk about what we're experiencing, create that sisterhood, recognize that at the end of the day, we're all women and we're all facing different things. We're all daughters. We're all, maybe not all sisters, but it was a commonality, a multi-generational sisterhood. So different ages, different cultures, and seeing that there's so many things that we're all experiencing, and then working together to, you know, have that voice, create solutions, bring different perspectives to those solutions, right? So there are different things that we bring as women and women of color of different ages and all of that. So all of that is behind what we do, and we're really proud of that.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think what you're doing is really great, not only to open up the conversations within families, but also is that when it becomes less taboo to talk about, because we don't talk about these things in a work culture either. And a lot of times, unfortunately, you know, there's not enough diversity when it comes to leadership. And so it's hard for women to go to their male boss and say, hey, I'm not feeling my best today, or this is why I have to be out. And so I think that there's, you know, that is also something that can change as the work culture once it becomes not so taboo to discuss. I heard a couple snaps there. Yeah. So Dale, you're a cancer survivor. I know you briefly kind of, 3-time cancer survivor. Okay. Claps for that one.
No more.
Yes, no more. That's it. 3's, that's all we want. So I know that these days, the average person has either faced, battled cancers, knows somebody that has. My question for you is, with what you do, and I know that you talked about working with some of the different universities in that space to educate the students. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, the importance of educating yourself around it? It's actually, again, perfect with you guys' discussion, but preventative and early detection. And can you educate us a little bit of what you're doing with some of the schools and universities?
Sure. Well, I think we can all start together with a little exercise and close our eyes. It'll just take a second. It's something essential in life, but a lot of us forget to do it the right way. Just close your eyes, relax, inhale, take a deep breath in, and exhale. Just let it all out. Open your eyes, start from a calm space. I feel that everyone has in their journey so many obstacles and challenges. Everyone's path is different. Almost no one's path is straight. But if you find that you have no fear, I found that you have to turn fear into focus. I feel that I used to be a worrier. I thought I was a perfectionist. I had to dot my I's, cross my T's, and then I'd add 1 + 1. It was going to be 2. I'd have the formula. Everything would be perfect if I did the right steps. But life is not like that at all. So you have to forget the formulas, go with your gut in some ways. And talking about cancer and educating yourself, definitely read and educate yourself and ask a lot of questions, just in life in general. But I found in the medical field, if you're at a doctor, and I was at one of the most famous hospitals in the world, and I had come to them and I asked for their advice. I had a growth on the side of my tongue. I was pregnant. And when I walked in, they're like, "Oh, you're so healthy. You look great. Let's just watch that. Females, when they're pregnant, they get some weird growth sometimes. So let's just watch that." That did not sit well with me. And luckily, I have a mouthpiece, and I was an advocate for myself. And I told the doctor, I said, "Somebody might do that, but I will not." I said, "I know you're busy, but I will sit here all day and be your last patient. And someone's taking a biopsy today, and I want to know what it is because I want it out. And then you can tell me." So I waited there all day. They took a biopsy, and they called me the next day. They're like, "You have full-blown cancer, and we can't treat you." They gave me the boot. I had to find another doctor to take care of me. But there's so many people, and work with a lot of cancer researchers and go to many hospitals and doctors, and that's been throughout my whole life. Uh, People take one opinion sometime from a doctor, and they're just like, "Well, my general practitioner said, let's just wait." Like they told me to wait. Maybe I wouldn't be here today if I waited. And that's happened with some of my friends and friends' parents, that they just listen to one person, and not everyone knows everything, and you have to do your own homework, and no one's going to be your self advocate. You have to be your own self advocate. So ask the questions. If you or one of your loved ones does have cancer, I definitely recommend, if you can afford it, to buy every slide, every test you can, FedEx them to all the hospitals around the world yourself. I did that the second time I had cancer, because that one we didn't know what was like. Each time it was like, okay. By the third time I was like, okay, I might like come out of this one, so I have to get this one right. So I FedEx slides, like live samples, all over the world, and got opinions from everyone. And I took 11 doctors to find a team. They put together a team to do the surgery that I needed for the last one. 10 doctors wanted to disfigure almost my whole body to be able to recreate my tongue. I found a team that was put together that if I gave up and just took the first person that told me what to do and didn't ask questions, I probably wouldn't be talking today. I wouldn't be eating today. I would be deformed. So yeah, NYU made me the face of oral cancer, or head and neck cancer, several years back, after one of my surgeries. And yes, most of what I talk about is not so much medical technical. It's more with your mind, body, and soul, and keeping yourself strong, and just never giving up, and to dig really deep. It gets tough, but if you can really find focus when you really want to be fearful, that will get you through. It's like a switch in your mind. You can find it though. Everybody has it. So in anything you do, it doesn't have to be a sickness, whatever it is. You want a job, you're afraid. Public speaking is one of my biggest fears, but I force myself to go and speak in front of people. Anytime anyone asks me, I'm like, okay, I'll come, I'll do it. So just put yourself out there, get out of your comfort zone and do something.
So one thing that you said that resonated with me is really, you knew your body better than anybody else, and you wouldn't accept that, because the exact same story happened to my mother, where they told her, "Oh, it's just this." And I think that happens a lot, is that women are waved off with, "Oh, she's being sensitive," or she whatever. Your body, and no, there's something wrong here. And so my mom did something similar, where she says, no, you're not right. I want you to take another test, and went to 2 or 3 other doctors. And then they ended up telling her, you do have cancer. So definitely that's something I took away from your story and hers, is that don't let people wave you off because you're a woman and then, oh, she's just being sensitive, or, oh, she's, being, emotional. Like we're always told, is that we know when something is wrong. Yeah. Yeah. So, to wrap us up, I have really quick rapid fire. So 1-word answers, just to close it up and hopefully have something fun and learn a little bit more about you guys. So, 1 word, we're going to start with each of you going this way. 1 word, books, articles, or podcasts?
Podcasts.
Articles.
Articles and concise books.
Short reads. Yeah.
I hate when you read 100 pages. They didn't give you any good nugget of information. Up there to the point.
So we've been talking about the areas of wellness, right? And all the things that we're good at and giving the audience advice. But sometimes too, I think it's important to be vulnerable and talk about the things that we're not great at. So I want you to be honest. Again, 1 word, which area of wellness do you personally struggle with the most? So physical, mental, or spiritual?
Physical, but they're all related. I know you said 1 word, but I have to break the rules.
Break them, Maggie.
And I'll break them even more because books too. Personal books, maybe professional articles. But I struggle, I would say mental.
For me, it's been physical. Ever since when I was 2 years old, I was in a coma for a long time. And my whole life, it's been physical, like one after the other. You're just getting better from something else. I hit you with something else. So for me, but keeping the mind and everything else uplifted helps you. You need the combo to keep healthy overall.
Right. So if we can get a round of applause for all the wonderful women, all the rule breakers up here today. And I'm going to hand it back to Cindy. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you all. We're going to welcome Mark Noodleberg to the stage. This is what it's all about, you ladies and gentlemen, collaborating, connecting, storytelling. It just is so, everyone's story on the stage here tonight was incredible. You can tell why Dale and I stayed up till 3 a.m. when we were on Below Deck every night, chatting about health and wellness and issues and struggles and bonding. Okay, here we go, Mark. Thank you so much. Here we are, Mark Noodleberg.
All right. My name is Mark Noodleberg. I am the president of a training and development company down here on the ball. The rest of the on the ball team is here. So shout out to my dad, my brother Jake, Shay Money. We've also got a community here that I have to shout out, which is the Noodleberg Daily Huddle community. Those who join us every day, recognize yourselves. We live stream every morning, Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock, and it's about owning your morning. My background is in college football. I was a college football coach for 14 years, fortunate to have worked at places like Florida, Florida State, Cincinnati, Nevada, Lafayette College. After a 14-year career, I got out of football coaching, moved back to South Florida, started this training and development company with my father, and wrote a book. The book is called Family, Football, and Failure. And those are the 3 F's that have kind of guided my life. I'm going to tell you a story about something that happened during my football career and how the ultimate equalizer between men, women, all sizes, all skill levels, the number one thing that I think we've heard over and over and over in here, which is mindset, how that allowed me to overcome. So at 26 years old, I was the youngest special teams coordinator. I was the youngest coordinator in college football. For those of you who don't know the game of football, don't understand the way it works, there's 119 Division I schools. So there's 119 people who own that job. I was the youngest one in the country. And at the end of my first year as a special teams coordinator, We finished 19th in the country, and I recruited 3 kids out of the state of Florida, and I was making the University of Cincinnati a better place. And in my mind, I was on the way to becoming the youngest head coach in the history of college football. At the end of that football season, we go to the bowl game. We have a good bowl game. I come home. We get a couple weeks off for vacation. And I'm kind of feeling myself, you know, like, all right, 26, leading the squad. Like, okay, 19. Like, this is, I got room to grow. I got plenty of room to get better. I know that. This sky's the limit. There's no doubt. I'm on the beach in Fort Lauderdale. I'm out in the water. I come back, and I have a missed call from the head coach. I'm not going to tell you who the head coach is because that's not necessary. But there's not a lot of head coaches that went into politics, so you might be able to guess who he is. And I knew as soon as I saw the missed call, I was like, that can't be good. He's calling me while we're on vacation. Like, either there's a player in trouble or something's happening. So I call him back. Hey, coach, what's going on? He says, hey, Noodle. That's my nickname, Coach Noodle. He says, we're going to make some changes this year, and you're going to be part of that different direction. Wow. Fired over the phone on vacation. I went from thinking I was going to be the youngest head coach in the history of college football to now being a 1-year coordinator, 26 years old, fired, and I felt like somebody put a stamp on my forehead that said reject. For those of you that don't understand the way college football works, all businesses, all industries are tight-knit, right? There's the circle that everybody wants to be in. Multiply that by 1,000 when it comes to college football. It is the boys' club. And the only way you get hired anywhere is if you know somebody on that staff and they're willing to put their name on you. So here I was at 26. I had worked since I was 18 to get to this position. Given up everything, sacrifice, everything you're supposed to do, grinded, right? And with one phone call, I was absolutely crippled, shattered. My brother was there. He saw me bawling like a baby. Because in my mind, how was somebody who wasn't involved in that situation going to be able to explain that it wasn't my fault that I got fired? That's when I realized something. That just because it wasn't my fault doesn't mean it wasn't my responsibility. I was immediately able to be removed from being the victim. How many of us have felt like a victim before? Raise your hand. All right, I'm gonna pause for a second. I really only know one way to do things, okay? And I'm a football coach. This is what it is. It's who I am. So we're going to do a little call and response here. I'm going to get you guys involved in this. I'm going to say, you are, and you're going to respond back to me in unison, I am. You are. I get it. It's been a long day. It's been a lot. We're hearing a lot. We're learning a lot. That is not going to do it. I want the camera to hear it. I want all of the Innovation Center to hear it. You are. You are. You are. Yes, that's right. You are whatever you say you are. And in that moment, I realized it wasn't my fault. It was my responsibility. And I was whatever I said I was. And so the first chapter of my book is called Just Do the Frickin' Work. Because at the end of the day, we can talk about mindset. We can talk about thinking the right things, saying the right things, but ultimately it comes down to doing the right things. So what I did was I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I started getting on the phone with everybody that I could get on the phone with, telling them the story, getting in front of it, and trying to control the narrative. Tell the story. Get out in front. Do what I could do to put myself in a position to be successful. Because we've got huge screens up here, right? If there was nothing plugged into that screen, if there was no cords, no power, no information source, what would be on there? Nothing. We as humans are the exact same way. You guys have heard mindset 1,000 times tonight. You guys have heard think the right thing, think the right thing. We are the display of everything that we put into us. You heard Crunchy talk about what you're putting on your body. Those are all inputs. And so I'm here to talk about mindset, which is really important, but how do we define the mindset? What components go into the mindset? And I can tell you that the number one thing you need to focus on when building a mindset is how you deal with failure. Because we are conditioned as humans to fear failure. Somebody tell me the only kind of failure that's fatal. Quitting? Quitting's not. Quitting. Suicide, sure. Cardiac, right? If your heart fails, you die, for sure. Any other kind of failure is not fatal. Yet we're conditioned as humans to absolutely be petrified of it. What happens if you get an F in school? Wow, parents are mad at you, school's mad at you, you got to repeat the grade, you got to repeat the class. It's a negative. It's a major negative. The greatest thing that sports teaches us is how to deal with failure. The greatest thing that I learned in that moment from being fired at 26 was how to deal with failure. So I like to keep things simple, and I like to have a process for absolutely everything. So my process for dealing with failure is number one, the 24-hour rule. You've got 24 hours to feel the failure. Feel it. Own it. Cry about it. Boo-hoo, whine, complain, woe is me, wallow, whatever you want to call it. Do it. You have to. You have to feel it. But if you allow that feeling to move beyond 24 hours, now you hinder your ability to recover from it. You hinder your ability to move on from it. You hinder your ability to use it. So after 24 hours, the next thing you have to do is analyze it. In football, a loss is a failure. And you got 12 opportunities every year, maybe 14 if you were really good. You got, maximum of 14 opportunities to either succeed or fail. If you failed on Saturday night, you had to feel it, but then you had to analyze it. You had to go back to the tape. You had to figure out what went wrong. Why did it go wrong? And if I can figure out what went wrong and why it went wrong, then I can build a plan on how to not do that again. Because if you don't, if you screw up, you fail, shit goes bad. Excuse my language for the little guy, sorry. And you don't learn why you failed, I can guarantee you're going to repeat that mistake. Guarantee, 1,000%. But if you go, learn what went wrong, build a strategy on how to avoid that, you know what else I can guarantee you? That you'll find another mistake. You'll do it again, you'll avoid that one, and you'll find another mistake. You'll find another failure. And if you look at the most successful people in the world, I don't care, sports, business, entertainment, doesn't matter. The ones who make it to the top and sustain at the top fail absolutely more than everybody else. They just deal with it better. And how do they deal with it? They've conditioned themselves to know what to do with it. 24-hour rule to feel it. Analyze it. Figure out what the hell went wrong and why it went wrong. Build a strategy to move forward and then go do it again. Try again. Don't take no for the answer. If you can understand how to deal with failure, you can move on to any other component that you need. We talked about confidence a lot tonight. People talked about feeling confident. Does anybody know what the definition of confidence is, or my definition of confidence? Somebody guess. Loving yourself? It's great. It's awesome. That sounds great. That's not what it is, though. Ego? It's not ego. Could be considered ego, but no. Your outlook, I would say your outlook's your mindset, your perspective. What confidence really is displayed ability. It's knowing that I've done it before. Working with athletes, working with coaches, working in the athletics world. Do you know what you do all week long to prepare for the game on Saturday, to prepare for the performance? Who said it? Yes, we're talking about practice. Do you know what practice does? It builds confidence. You put yourself in the scenario, you try, you learn, and then you do it again. And the more you practice, the more confident you feel when you walk into that scenario that you will be able to do it. So understanding that we look at people that are successful, we think they don't fail or they have some kind of magic potion to get to where they are. They're just willing to fail more than everybody else because they know how to deal with it. And we think that they're more confident than us. They have some kind of magical emotion that makes them be able to step in front and do and perform. But all they've done is put in more work than everybody else. They've practiced and prepared time and time again. And that's a mindset. That's got nothing to do with performance. That's got nothing to do with results. That has everything to do with how you go about your day every single day. For the huddlers that are in here, what's our motto? What's our slogan? What are we all about doing every day? 1% better every day. We live that mentality. Our Get on the Ball training community, virtual training community, lives the mindset of 1% better every day. That's not result driven. That doesn't mean that we're actually looking to get better 1% better every single day. There's a lot of days that we don't get better. But you better believe that everybody in that community wakes up accepting the challenge of trying to get better, to put in the work of what's necessary to get better. Not results. Mindset and behavior. As human beings, all the things we've heard tonight, all the things we talk about, our success boils down to two major factors: how you think, and what you do. I've been around some of the least performing individuals I've ever been around that had the greatest mindset and talked the biggest game. But the reason they didn't execute is because they didn't do. They thought about it all day long. They talked about it all day long, but they did nothing to put themselves in position to be successful. And vice versa. I've been with some of the most talented people in the world that could do anything, but absolutely crippled themselves because of the way they thought day in and day out. It takes both. It takes building the mindset of a champion, understanding how to deal with failure, how to build confidence in yourself, and then understanding how to take that mindset and apply it to what you do every single day. Persistent, consistent, discipline. I'm going to leave you with this acronym that I use to sum up all of the success in my life. And it's RPD. Relationships, process, and discipline. Every good thing that's ever happened to me has come from a relationship. It's come from somebody that I know introducing me directly to an opportunity, or somebody that had an opportunity for me. Everything. Family, friends, coworkers, everything comes down to relationships, and it's the most important thing in my life. The next two things are process and discipline. If you want to sustain success, you have to have a repeatable process. Anybody can find success overnight, one time. The ones who sustain it day in, day out, decade after decade, are the ones who, regardless of what the weather is, how they feel, what's happening in the environment, whether or not there's a pandemic, doesn't matter. They know exactly what their process is, and they have the discipline, D, to go back to that process time after time after time. So as we talk about things, mindset, behavior, if you can focus on how to develop a mindset around two things, dealing with failure and confidence, and then you can focus your behaviors around relationships, process, and discipline, I guarantee you that you will be successful in whatever it is that you try to do. So we're going to try this one more time to close this out. You are. I am. You are. I am. You are. I am. Yes, you are. Thank you, guys.
If you guys haven't checked out the Noodleberg Daily Huddle, it's every morning at 8 a.m. and you can find them on LinkedIn, YouTube, and it's amazing. I know that actually my son and I listen a lot on the way to school in the morning, and it's great. And during the pandemic, we did listen to it a lot also, and it was just, it's incredible community. And that's what this is about. Community, Crunchy's community, the ladies here with the panel and health tech, Joy and I. And now we're going to talk about the CF community, cystic fibrosis. So I'm going to invite the cystic fibrosis community to the panel, to the stage. Oh yeah, I'll get it. Okay, Lisa and Judy. Is Judy here? Oh, there she is. Hi, Judy. Okay, I'm going to toss this over. I'm just going to say really quick, I'm on the board with cystic fibrosis for several years, and we have some incredible moms here, incredible ladies, and I'm going to toss it over to Joy, but I know their stories, and I'm just incredibly humbled for them to share it tonight.
Thank you. And ladies, thank you so much for being here tonight. A lot of what Mark was talking about is seeing every challenge, that life throws us and turning it into something that, we turn into something beautiful in the end and grows us. And I was talking with Judy earlier. We had a pretty good talk about, her journey with having 2 children with cystic fibrosis. But I wanted to start first with Laura. I wanted you to share, we all saw the 65 roses out there. And when you explained to me what that was and where the name came from, I was really excited. I wanted you to share, and let's just start there.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Laura Hazelwood, and I'm actually a staff member for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. I'm more honored to be here with these moms, and I'll be very brief. And it's been so inspiring tonight. So thank you, Joy, and thank you, Cindy, for having us. But the 65 Roses story started from a woman named Mary Weiss, who founded the local chapter for the CF Foundation. We're a national organization. We're focused on research and care for people with CF. we call cystic fibrosis CF, and the ultimate goal is a cure. So Mary Weiss came from Canada with her 3 boys and her husband to Palm Beach, where the salt air and the environment and the climate is much better for someone with CF. And just all 3 of her boys had been diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. It was a time before there was newborn screen. And so they come here, and she was just an amazing pioneer and a legend. And 2 of her sons, unfortunately, passed away in their 30s, but one son with cystic fibrosis is still active, and he's had a lot of struggles, but he'll be 58 actually this month, which is terrific. So we've made a lot of progress. You're going to hear a couple of different perspectives, but the 65 fibrosis story was the youngest of Mary's sons. His name was Richard, and he heard his mom fundraising her heart out. She was such a pioneer. She got our first $1 million gift as an organization. She founded chapters. She beat on every door. She rang every bell at the time. It's in the 60s. And her oldest, Richard, heard her just working those phones. And he didn't really understand what he had. He was like, such a young boy. And when she hung up, he said, "Mom, I know what you're working for." And she was hesitant, afraid that he knew that how sick he was. And she was like, what am I working for? And he says, "You're working for 65 Roses. So cystic fibrosis was what he heard as 65 Roses. So that's really our story. And, I would leave you that this organization is just remarkable. It's really a medical, it's really one of the best stories in medicine, because founded in 1955 by moms like these who knew that they could not make a difference for their children. The life expectancy was only age 5 at the time, but they knew that if they did something, that it could make a difference for future generations. And those women, I find that so empowering, that they knew their children were going to die, but they said, "But we are not going to accept that for the future generations." And so I think that's just a remarkable story. And what really strikes me about the CF Foundation is that it's really focused on research. And no matter, we hear about cancer, we've heard about all of these diseases tonight, and all the commonality among them is research, it's progress. And I heard a quote one time from a senator who is now passed away, and he said, "You don't appreciate medical research until you need it. And until you benefit from it." And that really stuck with me, and it's kind of defined my career. I started in healthcare marketing, and then I ended up in fundraising and all around healthcare. And I always feel like that whether you support this organization or any of the organizations, if they're research focused and they're making a difference and they're moving the science, it's just remarkable. So that is just who the CF Foundation is. And I'm going to really turn it over back to you, Joy, and these remarkable women to really share their stories and their journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And why don't we just go around? I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us about your child or children, and that way we get to know you more.
Oh, sure. Thanks so much. Thanks for having us. I'm Jessie Gardner. I moved down here in 2018 with my husband and my son. My son is Riley. He's 7 years old. He has cystic fibrosis. He was diagnosed at 21 days old through newborn screen testing. So I'm very grateful for the early diagnosis, because we were able to start treatment right away and get him into a care center and start doing all the medications and everything that's needed. Because it is a progressive disease, so we do have to stay on top of it daily. He does treatments each day. We can dive into that in a little bit, but that consists of a vest that vibrates him to break up the mucus, and then it goes into a nebulizer. He takes 750 pills a month to stay healthy, and he's fun. He's awesome. He's great, and he loves the beach and to surf and all that great stuff. So moving. Oh, is he there? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was a gala we did last year in Delray, my husband and I. But yeah, no, that was one of the reasons we moved down here, were for the benefits of the ocean, and the salt air. And so it's been really fabulous to live here. And we have a great care team down in Miami that we see about every 3 months or so. So thank you all.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I have a daughter. Her name's Piper Kinney. She is 11 years old, and she as well was diagnosed through the newborn screening at 2 weeks old. She has had a journey She has a port and a feeding tube. At 5 years old, she only weighed about 30 pounds. So she was very, very small. She has had microbacterium where she had to have medicine that had to be, blood was drawn weekly to make sure that it wasn't toxic in her bloodstream. So she couldn't get it pulled through the port because that's where the medicine went in. So she was poked every week for a whole year while she had to be on the medication. She then got aspergillus, which is a fungus that the body can also become allergic to. Thank goodness she didn't have the allergic reaction to it, but she did have the photosensitivity to the medication that she had to go on. So she couldn't even go outside. Thank goodness it was during COVID. So we were stuck indoors, but she's had some challenges, but she has started a new medication through the research of cystic fibrosis called Trikafta, and it's a whole new world. She is 80 pounds. She has begged the doctors to remove her feeding tube, but they refuse. However, she is really, really trying hard to get that out. She still has her port. I learned how to flush it myself, as I did not want her to be, I guess, have a life of where she had to wait for a nurse to come and do everything. So I take on a lot of the responsibilities myself to make sure that she can live her life to the fullest. She as well has many medications that she has to take. She does her treatments twice a day, and she just is an amazing person. So, and she has a 14-year-old brother who is a golfer who would love to become a pro to win the Masters and build a hospital for children with cystic fibrosis. So I'm very proud of him. They have a very close bond. And so, yeah, so that's his goal. So.
That would be wonderful.
Right? He said so she can stay free.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I talk about the ripple effect. Goodness gracious, this has been a wonderful evening. My name is Judy Macris. My husband and I had 2 children with cystic fibrosis. Our path has been a little bit different in that our first child was born in 1984. I'm usually a researcher, but for some reason, I bought books and I didn't read anything about having a baby. And my husband had just accepted a job, and we had to go to Nashville and live for about 3 months. And then he got his first assignment and we went to Columbus, Ohio. I was probably, let's see, that was November, and Jessica was born February 22nd. I turned 30 on February 14th of that year. That was in 1984. I didn't really know what was wrong because I was the youngest child. I hadn't been around anybody that had been pregnant, so I didn't know anything about it. But I was really not feeling well. I was sick, and I knew that I was sick, but I didn't know what was wrong. And I went into labor. My water broke, went to the hospital. 2.5 days later, still, Jessica had not arrived. And so they were going to induce. Why? They didn't do ultrasounds back then for some reason. I don't know why. It took, Jessica's stomach was 4 inches bigger than her head. Her intestine had perforated, and when she was in utero, and so we were both septic. It took, I don't know how many nurses that actually were so professional coming into the labor and delivery room, pushing on my stomach and still not letting us really realize the extent and the magnitude of what was going on. And they would take turns coming in and take turns coming in and take turns coming in. And I still didn't really know what was going on. She was born, her APGAR scores, for anybody that knows anything about APGAR scores, was very low. I didn't know anything about APGAR scores. Paul didn't know anything about APGAR scores. He was the youngest child also. And I guess we were pretty unprepared. They took Jessica away right away. I didn't get to see her. It was, I didn't know what was going on, but she was in very critical condition. They were cleaning her up. I never got to hold her. Didn't really get to see her. They brought her back. They still didn't let me know what was going on, but they brought her back and took a picture of her and gave it to me while she was in isolate, and said that she had to be transferred to a children's hospital. Paul went with her. He put his finger into the isolate, and Jessica held on. And she was transferred to a children's hospital. They gave her no chance of making it through the night, but she made it. And the next day, they did surgery on her and found out that she had, the intestine had burst. They gave her an ileostomy, which is a bag. Paul called me on the phone. I had also 56 stitches after her birth. And I was laying in the hospital bed, and Paul called me and said, they did surgery on her. She's got maybe a 50% chance of living through the night. And they said she has cystic fibrosis. And I kept asking all the nurses, what's cystic fibrosis? What's cystic fibrosis? And nobody, they just kept saying the doctors would explain. And nobody came. So being the kind of person that I was, I picked up my tube that I was sitting on. I got a cab and I left, and I went to the Children's Hospital, AMA. And that was our journey, the beginning of our journey. She was in NICU for 2 months. We got to bring her home on an Easter Sunday. It was very difficult. You couldn't move her without her, after you fed her, without it coming up. She bled into her diapers. I kept trying to tell the pediatrician something was wrong, that she was bleeding, and they kept saying, oh, well, it's probably just, because they resected her colon. Probably just where they resected her colon. Don't worry about it. So when I had a bag full of diapers, I probably had 15 diapers. I got so sick of what they were telling me that I took a bag of diapers and went to the pediatrician and sat in the room and threw the diapers on the floor and said, okay, if this was your child, what would you do? And they didn't have any answers. So I quickly talked to Paul. We decided that most of her problems were GI, and most of the people that are associated with cystic fibrosis are pulmonologists. And so I looked for a GI specialist for cystic fibrosis. And that took us to Chicago, where Paul was from. We moved to Chicago. Jessica was probably on the 5th percentile. Worked with a nutritionist, and within 6 months, she was on the 95th percentile. She had a wonderful life. And of course, they told us not to have any more children. However, unexpectedly, I got pregnant. At that time, they had not discovered the gene, so there was no way of knowing whether the next child that we had would have CF or would not have CF. the only test they could do was at 6 months, and they could do amniocentesis. And then they could tell me whether he had CF or not. And at 6 months, I decided that I was the optimist and I was just going to go through with it. The minute that he was born and they brought him to me, I fed him, and I also, at the same exact time I was feeding him, it came out the other end, and I went, oh my God. If you had a child who had CF, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. I knew immediately. He was born December 19th, and I didn't want to go home and say, we have another child with CF. So I decided to keep that to myself and get through the holidays. And then in Chicago, we had a snowstorm. So it was probably the end of January he was really officially diagnosed. Quickly, he did not have anywhere near the problems Jessica did. We moved to Florida because of Mary Weiss. Mary Weiss knew my husband's parents, and they said, you need to move to Florida where you're by the ocean. It worked so well. We moved down here, the kids were in the ocean if they had a cold, whatever. And things went beautifully. The kids went through school just like every other kid. Our daughter, Jessica, was diagnosed with diabetes when she was a senior, but she didn't blink an eye. She just kept on going and had her sights on the University of Florida, left and went to University of Florida. I took many angel flights back and forth to Florida, to US. She had seizures, she had car accidents because of the insulin, she passed out. There was just a lot of incidents, but she prevailed. She graduated from the University of Florida. In the meantime, PJ was doing his thing, and his real name is Peter. I call him PJ. And growing up and growing into the world, and Jessica graduated from UF. We started having the same problems that Piper's mom was talking about, the mycobacterium. We went to National Institute of Health and got a diagnosis of mycobacterium, and at that time the Tigasil was medication she's talking about was experimental, but she did get on it. In the meantime, we went to the St. Mary's CF clinic. That's where they were taken care of. And we needed insurance. And I was fortunate enough to meet someone there who helped me get a job and get on-the-job training. And I started working in the hospital field and became an EKG tech. But the greatest thing that came out of that is that I knew all the back roads and inroads. I knew the nurses, and it helped incredibly in our journey. Jessica's journey ended on May 29th, 2017.
I didn't think this was going to happen. She was a beautiful soul. Absolutely beautiful. She handled her life. Screen here. Yes. She handled her life with her mindfulness, everything that the ripple effect. I'm thinking, oh my God, this child, she was very mindful. She was very motivated. She did everything she could to stay with us. But I really think, and this is just my summation, I think that she could have
died when she was born, but I think she saw the other side and decided to stay. And she stayed for a reason. And that reason was to teach us all a lot. Peter, of course, was devastated at losing his sister, but he prevailed, and he lives in Jacksonville, and he is married, has been married for 7 years now, and his wife had a child before they got married. He adopted her. She's now 14 years old. So he has the pleasure of raising a teenager, which gives me great joy. He is on Trikafta. He was, Trikafta. He was very small in growing up and in high school. He now is 37 years old. He weighs about 200 pounds because of the Trikafta. He just went to his clinic visit. His PFT's pulmonary function, which has never been this good, was 94%. He's just done remarkably well. And it's all due to the fact that cystic fibrosis research is all of the money the CF Foundation makes, 96% of it, I believe, is a better idea, goes to research and development. And that has enabled all of these children to have a better outlook on life. And I appreciate my unexpected crying, and I thought I could get through that one. But everything that everybody has said tonight, I just, it was amazing because it touched me in so many different ways. And I'm so grateful that you asked us to be here. It really was wonderful. Thank you.
Judy, thank you. Thank you for sharing that journey on us. And I will mention that in talking to Judy earlier, she said that her daughter, somebody asked her, if you would have had the chance to, to be born without cystic fibrosis, would you go back and choose that? And she said, absolutely not. That's why I was put here, taught me everything I needed to learn to be who I am. And, a lot of that also, I think, goes into your parenting and helping her, form that opinion of, of challenge. So when you think about her, and I loved hearing about the celebration of her life. It was a packed house of all of her friends and everyone that loves her. That's beautiful. So now going back, real quickly, let's get into, you have a child with cystic fibrosis. Not that there's a rhythm or, anything predictable, but you're starting to manage it best you can. And then COVID hits. Take us on that journey and the impact that it had and how it changed things. And if it kept anything different, like continually different now moving forward.
Oh, here. Yeah, I look back during COVID and I'm like, wow, that was a lot of fear. That was a lot of fear and really just not knowing which way to go. I was happy though that I did live in Florida because I was able to be outside with my son who loves to be outside. So we stayed in our backyard a lot and we were able to do that. But prior to COVID, we wore masks all the time when he would go to his clinic visits down in Miami. I really did keep a distance as best I could in the younger years at preschool of navigating those who had colds and those who didn't, because the cold with him will last a lot longer than it would for the average child. I'm very adamant about hand washing. So finally the world got on board with knowing how to wash their hands. So I was really thankful for that. So I don't know why that was misconstrued, but when that did all happen, you're never really prepared for that. Like none of us were, but I was like, okay, so we're just going to do this even more. We're just going to keep our distance a little more. We're just going to have more fun things to do at home. We're going to cook. We're going to bake. We're going to order everything on Amazon and have it come here. And this is going to be great. So I kind of went in overdrive, but yeah, but I lived in a lot of fear though, too. Like I really did. And I didn't have a connection with a spiritual connection with my higher power whatsoever. And I was very scared for a long time. So, I did some work on myself and I was able to, incorporate yoga and mindfulness and just talk to those who I really trust and cherish and really speak on where my fears were and where my anxiety was coming from. And really just took it one day at a time with everything and 1 minute at a time. Just because we didn't know which way it was going. So yeah, it was a roller coaster, but I'm grateful for where we are now. And again, I was just thankful to be able to be outside when we could and continue our distance.
When it hit, Piper was in 2nd grade, so we ended up having to go straight to homeschool. So I actually talked to the principal at her school a week before they made the announcement of schools were closing down. And I said, what do we do? Because I was paying for her at a private school. So I said, what do I do? Because I don't want her to lose her spot. Like, how's this going to work? So plus she has a brother. So I couldn't take one out and leave the other. I said, it's a deal of both, or I don't know. We're going to have to figure it out. So she said, no, we will work with you. We'll do everything. So Piper from March of 2019 or 2020, was home until she went into 4th grade. So she was homeschooled. I became a mom, a teacher. I worked from home. It was a very big challenge on myself. Anxiety really started to drive. Not being able to find toilet paper when you have a child that is pancreatic insufficient is one of the worst things that you can do. Praying that every little square will stay so they can just get through the day, as well as Clorox wipes. I know that we take advantage of being able to have that, but for a CF family, that is life. Everything is wiped down. I have wipes that I take in my purse. We go to a restaurant, you wipe down the tables, so that was challenging. Another one was not understanding why her friends were able to go back in 3rd grade and she had to be on a screen. That was really hard for her. But overall, I mean, she was able to play golf with her brother. She did. She went out and played golf with him, and she was able to go out front, and she would have friends that would stop by and they would stay in the driveway and she would stay up by the house so that they could at least talk and see. But the disconnection of not being able to be around her friends and everybody was probably the hardest for her, and not understanding why her. So masks, like she said, are something that we wear when we have to go to the hospital or when we go into clinic. But like for us, if we go to Disney, if we go anywhere, we're on a bus with enclosed spaces, waiting in lines, we wore masks at that places as well, just to make sure, especially during the flu seasons and, all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of already normal for her. So that was not something that really bothered her. So I was very, very lucky on that. And other than that, it was just learning how to navigate life.
We had lived the same way, I mean, it was just part of our life to wipe everything down and live with masks all the time. A funny aside, however, is my son did living in Jacksonville, because he has his own business, had some panic attacks. He was scared. We tried to encourage him all we could. He was really upset that CF patients couldn't get COVID vaccinations first, and people over 65 and other people could get them. So he's quite a character. He actually ordered a costume that was a big COVID germ and wore it and went to the hospital and protested. And we have a picture of that. So he did succeed in getting his COVID vaccination that way, which is quite like everything that he did. If he wanted it, he got it.
Yeah. Share. What do you wanted me to share? That. Yeah. So this is on live stream. And I mean, so anybody that's on my community watching right now, thank you for joining and thank you for being a part of this. And so, as you're speaking right now, you are speaking to a very large audience online. And what I would like to hear from you is, how, as a parent, how would you like other parents to understand, you when it comes to, their kids being friends with your friends? I know Judy shared a story that was, really, really disappointing. Sometimes parents can, be the worst advocates in this situation as to putting the wrong type of outlook to their own kids because they're trying to protect their kids. And it's, really hurtful. And a lot of it is just the misunderstanding, right? And the lack of education. So how would you speak, to other parents out there as to, how you would like them to, raise their kids to understand your kids and what they're going through?
That's a good question. We have our neighbor who has 2 children, and they come over a lot, and Riley and he are very close, and they always ask what Riley's best machine is and what is it and why are we raising money or why are we going on a walk. We've always included Riley in as much as he wants to be included in. He loves doing the walk and raising money and raising awareness, and he understands that he has 65 roses, as he calls it. And with his friends, I kind of let Riley take the lead on if he chooses to speak on, what he has and why he takes his pills in school. He does get a little, I don't know if the word's embarrassed or just annoyed of the constant questions of why he has to take these pills and what it's for. And he just says it's because he has cystic fibrosis. I just have open, ended questions and conversations with my friends about it. And I really explain in detail basically what it is. And this is what I would hope you could share with me. If invite us over if your child isn't coughing or they don't have a cold or they're not getting over being sick, like just really be honest with me on how your whole family is. And so with COVID, a lot of our friends were really great. They really were mindful and really communicated with me. And even to this day, I have a close friend and she'll sometimes pick Riley up from school. I even have the enzymes at her house because we're so close and she just knows. She's been on the board with us and everything of events. And, that she's just alert and on it of when to give Riley medicine and Riley can speak for himself now. And so, and I also have to trust, too. I have to let go of some of my control. And that has been challenging at times too, but it's been very rewarding as well that it doesn't all have to fall on me. And I can work with others too. That's been really, really beneficial.
So Piper's 11 and we are learning independency. So Piper was in class and they were learning about lungs. And so I told her, I said, I have your bronchs. If you want to take them pictures in, like you can show the class like what a lung looks like on the inside. And what did she do? She got up there, told them all about her disease. She showed them her lungs and she was ready for any questions. We've always told Piper everything. We make sure that she understands that, missing treatments or doing stuff that can harm her lungs are things that can always change her outcome. As she gets older, we try, especially with getting into the teenage years, like you've got to make sure that what you put in your body is something that's going to be good and not harm it for later on down the road. And, that you only have one set of lungs right now, and we want to keep them as long as we can. There is, of course, she's double Delta. So the expectation is at least at 18 or 20 that will probably be looking for new lungs. I mean, I think hopefully Trikafta will stop that. But I mean, we just try to tell her that, you know, we want to just keep everything moving. And she goes to her teachers and she says, I have Cheetos today. It's a small bag. I only need 2 of my pills for my snack. So she's learning like how much she needs to take. We're trying to give her that independency. She's starting to stay the night out. Worst mom I know. She just had her first sleepover at 11. But it was very hard again with letting go of that control. She does her breathing pretty much. She gets everything ready for herself. She's washing her stuff. When she's done, she has to put it into a sanitizer because all of these, we have to sanitize everything after every time she uses it so that there's no bacteria that grows in it. So she's learning what she needs to do to take care of herself so that when it comes time that she can be confident that she can do it all on her own. So yeah, we try not to hide anything from her.
I love that. I'll just take a point out of that is, you know, if as a parent, if you have a child who's friends with someone with CF, educate yourself as much as you can. That way you can educate your child. That way, like you said, you can have somebody that's helping you. And then it's sooner that you do feel comfortable allowing your child to have a sleepover if you know that they understand it. So education is crucial and it's the best way to show love, I think. And it really takes away a lot of the fear and the misunderstanding. But Judy, why don't you just, if you don't mind, share the story that was just so heartbreaking with your son. It was heartbreaking.
Jessica didn't have any problems at all. Everything was, you know, out front. She embraced it all. You know, she just kind of sailed. Didn't mind that everybody knew. You know, she was very athletic. PJ, on the other hand, had a rougher time. I think little boys are meaner to each other. I don't know if that's true or not. But he had an experience where one of his friends had a nurse for a mother, and she told her son that PJ had cystic fibrosis and he wasn't going to live very long. And she didn't want her son to go through the trauma of losing a friend at an early age, and that she didn't want him to play with him. So he became pretty reclusive after that. He did things like he would put his enzymes in his mouth and get them wet and hide them under his plate. And, you know, he tried to hide it. And he was a very rebellious young boy and a young teenager. And, but he's turned into a wonderful young man.
So in closing, Laura, I know you had some thoughts you wanted to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to, a couple of things. Just thank you guys for your patience. I know it's been a long night and it's been so informative and we've learned so much. I've been so inspired by everybody. So, and the Noodlebergs I knew before, and it's fun to see them again. But the progress that's being made is so remarkable because life expectancy when CF was discovered in 1938 was just infancy. By the 1950s, it was age 5. By the 1980s, it was age 20. And everyone's experience is very different. Not everyone has the same type of experience, CF experience. But this Trikafta drug that we're talking about, it's not for everyone with cystic fibrosis. Not everybody can take it. Their genetic mutation may be such that it won't work for them. So that's why our work continues. But it's such a pioneering drug that we just learned a few weeks ago in Denver that a child born today with cystic fibrosis, if they are able to take a modulator, it's called medication like Trikafta, their life expectancy can be expected to be 56 years of age. So that's where the medicine has gone from where it was. And it's just so remarkable. Thank you. It's just so remarkable to me that that progress is what has happened because of the science and the medicine. And we keep talking about the clinic. And I just wanted to make mention that another part of the CF Foundation's funding is to fund cystic fibrosis care centers. That we don't have our own. We just fund University of Miami or Shands in Gainesville, or wherever there's a CF care center, we fund them. And because that has made another huge difference in care, is to make sure that they get this really a huge team that can approach this in a way that improves health outcomes for all people with CF. So, and we are working on initiatives now that is ensuring that everybody with CF has the same chance of having improved outcomes. We found that everyone thought it was a Caucasian disease at one time, and that's not true. And a lot of people, we feel like people of color and were left out of clinical trials and left out of the dialogue, and may have been left out of the care model because of the lack of understanding and our lack in society of really communicating that this is a disease that impacts really a lot of people, and not just one set of people. So that's a huge initiative too of the CF Foundation. And Cindy mentioned on screen, we've got lots of events. I've got stuff out there. We fundraise just like so many other organizations, but we do have an event April 29th in Hobe Sound, Palm Beach Songwriters Under the Stars. So Cindy's on the committee and she's terrific. And Kelly's here. So thank you.
Songwriters from Nashville and Under the Stars. It's like one of my most favorite events ever. It's so beautiful. And I just wanted to mention also that if this statistic I think is right, 1 in 34 people have the gene for cystic fibrosis, and I'm one of them. I have the gene for it too.
Yeah. Yeah, to get CF, a child, both parents have to have CF and carry the gene, and then they have a 1 in 4 chance that their child will develop it. And so a lot of people are carriers, they're healthy carriers. Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah. So thank you guys. Is there anything else, Joy, that you?
That's it. Ladies, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
sharing
all.
and for educating us. That's so important. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Your
Oh yeah. Oh, and I'll make it shorter since we can.
I'm gonna take my shoes off. It's freezing. Yeah, it is freezing.
Yeah, if anybody wants to come to this event, it's one of the most special events. It's in Hope Sound, and it's so fun. We're gonna have Joy up on the stage.
Joy is dropping the heels right now.
I think this.
Ooh. Yeah, I'll take that. And I'll give you the abbreviated version. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging tonight. Yeah, no, this is our core group here. So thank you for sticking with us and being here tonight. I'm switching the shoes. Funny story. Well, we'll get into a lot of it, but I am heavily into endurance sports, and just came from a training camp in California, swimming, biking, running, covering an Ironman event out there. And then today, the worst part, on the beach, they're doing some construction. And so I was supposed to have a swim, but the flags are up. You weren't allowed to swim. And so I was like, well, let me at least get my, like a run on the beach barefoot. And they're doing construction, all these tractors. So I got past, but then they wouldn't let me come back. And then I'm like, how am I supposed to get back after I've already run super far barefoot? And I had to go in and come back down the sidewalk, the street, the grass, all barefoot. So my feet are like on fire right now. So I couldn't do the heels much longer tonight. But anyway, I just wanted to jump in real quickly and just talk about the difference between being intrinsically motivated and extrinsically motivated. There's a huge difference when we come to facing the really hard things like we're talking about, whether it's, health problems or financial disaster or emotional problems. If we are the majority influenced and our drive is extrinsic, there's not going to be that strength there like it is when it's truly intrinsic. And I just kind of want to point out to you tonight the difference so that we can self-examine and learn how to really grow the intrinsic part of us. And I'll tell you on why the fascination with this, interestingly enough, it comes, down, I think, when we need to dig deep, when things get tough, when things get hard. There's 3 different areas. I loved what Mark was talking about earlier. that it's, it's got to come from within. So my long journey, how I got into endurance sports was, I had a reset in my life, early 30s, went through a divorce, lost everything, just a really hard time. But what that taught me as I maneuvered and got through that was how much that challenge, when you're left with nothing, when it's sink or swim, how you will find that, that strength within, and you'll grow. And I grew so much, and I became such a stronger person and I went places I never thought I could have gone prior to that. I had 3 small kids at the time going through that. And then ended up getting remarried, taking on 2 more kids. So now we're in a blended family. And if you have any idea of what a blended family like, there's no written rules. It's so crazy, especially the ages that we combined them. I had a 3, 5, and 7-year-old, and my husband had a 10 and a 14-year-old. You throw all that together, it's not the Brady Bunch. It's pure chaos. Pure chaos. Plus you have, it's just the spouses on each side and the going back and forth. It's pure chaos. But, we kind of maneuvered that, got through that. Big shout out. The kids were amazing. They actually have bonded and truly, see themselves as brothers and sisters. So even when my husband and I were fighting, we're like, man, the kids are getting along. There's something wrong with this. That's insane. So if anything beautiful came out of it, that was it, was to see them bond. And they were always a reminder. But, once again, life got comfortable. And that's when it hit me. That is the most dangerous place you can be, is when everything's going okay, when you're comfortable. Because if you're not moving forward, if you're not growing, what does that mean? You're going to move backwards. And you become very weak. It's the same when it comes to the physical. You're going to become very weak if you stop challenging yourself, if you stop tearing down the muscles, if you stop challenging the cardio system to grow strong, to grow endurance. You're going to become very weak. So it was during that time, and this is kind of, I'm getting to the story for all my LinkedIn, how my community grew on LinkedIn, was that I said, you know what? Everything's at a standstill. I need to create challenge. I've never run a marathon. Let me do that. I mean, I'd always been healthy. I'd always, was really adamant about getting my cardio in, doing my strength training, but I had never really pushed myself. And so just that journey alone of training for a marathon, I took my whole community of LinkedIn with me. It just taught me so much. It broke me down. It showed me truly the resilience of getting through something like that. And I saw, wow, this physical challenge is truly the key to growing and to growing your mindset, like Mark was talking about, growing your mindset. And I jumped into this so deep. After that, we were up in a helicopter, and because I couldn't walk the next day, it was a downhill marathon. And the pilot says, so what's next, Joy? An Ironman? As we were flying over the Kona Coast, which is the world championship course. And I was like, what's an Ironman? I don't know what that is, but that sounds pretty Boston. I was feeling all confident from doing my marathon. And I thought I could figure that out, so that's how that journey, began. But going back, how do we become intrinsically motivated? It starts, number one, I'm going to give you 3 things really quickly. It starts, number one, with your faith. And I would never be the person here to tell you what to believe or how to believe. I can only tell you what I believe, because that's a personal journey that only you can choose, and that you have to go after, and that you have to find for yourself. Right. And for me, yes, so many people believe in the universe and all the energy, and all of that is true and it's right. But I choose to believe in the creator of the universe, because I believe that's where the true source of strength is. And the reason that gives me so much power is because if I believe that I'm made in the image of God and I'm formed in his image, then that means that my potential within me is massive, is endless, is truly limitless. And it's so many times when we come up against a wall, something hard, when I think I can't, I have to be reminded I'm made in his image, so I can. And it's endless, and once again, I'll tell you, that's your journey that you have to seek. You have to find what's going to be your faith, what's going to be your stronghold. And I encourage you, seek it with everything you have. Seek it with everything you have and find that, because that's where you're going to draw your ultimate strength. And then the second thing when people go around and they're like, oh, you can do anything, it's within you, we all have the power, we do. But if you go in there and you search for something that hasn't been developed, you're not going to be able to pull anything out. And so going back to the physical challenge, that's what's just it's become intoxicating for me, because as I started getting into these endurance sports, I realized that there is no cheating the growth that comes when it's just you and your mind and your body, and your body saying quit, but your mind is telling you keep going. And you have to develop that conversation, that strength. It's like you have somebody on each shoulder, and one saying quit, this is awful, this is terrible, and the other one saying you can do this, you're going to keep going, because the truth is that the mind's going to give up before the body does. And back to my story of running the marathon, I did go on. I had no background in swim, no background in cycling. I mean, I could kind of run now, now that I know about running, I realize I'm so far off at that point. But, I decided to chase that, and I decided to learn, because it hit all the points for me, which was jumping through fear, developing the mindset of the, the mind over the body, the consistency, which is something that is crucial to anything in life. I guarantee if you chase something and you're consistent in that pursuit, and you're consistent every day in doing that little thing, you're going to be successful, because consistency is key to, to accomplishing anything, to accomplishing that goal. And that's why my mantra on LinkedIn for, when I'm pushing this physical challenge is anything's better than nothing. I'm not asking you go train for a marathon. I'm not asking you go do, these crazy Ironman triathlon events. I'm just saying move your body every day, right? Yeah, like go for a walk. If you are stuck at home, go up the stairs a few times, dance while your kids are watching a movie. Like there is something that you can do every day to move your body. And even if a day goes by and you're just slam, take the stairs a few times at work, right? But it's keeping with that effort, that little step, that little consistency that's going to make you want more. And you're going to build the confidence because, hey, I was able to stick with that. No matter how big or how small it was, I was able to stick with it. And that consistency really builds confidence within you. That's going to take you, to accomplish that goal. And then also the reason, I became so just involved in this endurance sports was because every time I would show up to these races, I was jumping through fear, right? And that's what we were talking about earlier. You can't, you have to jump through fear, because on the other side of that is confidence, right? Because when you do that hard thing, when you do that scary thing, and it doesn't have to be even sports, right? It can be forgiveness, right? That's huge. That's the thing that so many of us don't want to let go of, right? Because what do we fear? We fear that they might get away with, like feeling better about themselves, or, what is it that holds us to create this something inside of us because we don't forgive, that's actually making us a prisoner, right? So, there's so many things that translate back over to life. And then also, the physical is so important because we're talking about the mental and the emotional, all the feel-good hormones, the endorphins, the oxytocin, the dopamine, that's what everybody's after, and they're searching for that everywhere else. We have it within our own body if we go out there and move our body, right? The serotonin, my body runs off of serotonin a lot. That's actually like the love hormone. That's the hormone that you get that sense when you're breastfeeding your child. I mean, all of those hormones are there waiting for us if we just choose to go move our body, right? And so all of these things coming together really made me become so involved. And then, as well as going on to here, I started this journey when I was 44 as an aging woman who, so many of us put so much emphasis on our appearance and how we look. All of a sudden, I found within myself, I was starting to care less about what I looked like. I was more proud and confident of how I was able to fuel my body, how my body was able to perform, right? And, I see a 20-year-old who looks way better than me, but I'm like, yeah, she's never done an Ironman. You know what I'm saying? Like, what does she have on me? And all of a sudden, the shift of self-worth and emphasis on outward appearance, it became about, what are my goals and what am I accomplishing and what is good for me? And I'm confident about that. And so this whole new sense of confidence came to me. And, and then, yes, I started taking it farther and farther, to the point where I did learn to, swim, bike, and run. I did do the full distance. And if you don't know what an Ironman is, it's a 2.4-mile swim. It's a 112-mile bike. And then you wrap that up with a 26.2 marathon. So it's all three. It's insane. It's crazy. And this is coming from somebody who couldn't even swim 25 yards the first time I went to the pool. Okay. So to jump into an ocean and swim 2.4 miles was like your body is shaking before you jump in to do that. It's very, very scary. But jumping through that every time, just showed me this is what I need to do. The bigger, the scarier, I need to go prepare and do it, because I knew on the other side that what was waiting was confidence. And, since then I was able to start a podcast. Now I'm in the circle with all the pro triathletes. I don't know how this has all happened. The world champions, the Olympians, they're all within my circle. I'm able to cover races at times, be on the press, and, get to know them, communicate with them. And so now, of course, this mindset journey is like taking me to the next level, because they truly, it's insane. And it all comes down to, you're not going to get through an event like that if you're extrinsically motivated, because there's no amount of likes on Instagram. There's no amount of what your family might think or your kids might think or anyone's going to think that's going to save you that day if you don't keep pushing. That there's that on your shoulder is not going to get you anywhere. It has to come from within. It has to be an intrinsic motivation. And then the last thing I want to leave you with is, I have faith, I have the physical. And then the last key to truly, being happy too, is to just purge the extrinsic, right? Purge the comparing on the social media. If you feel like doing a post about something, do the freaking post. Who cares? Most people aren't going to be sitting there watching thinking, oh, I can't believe she posted that. Like do that, right? When I first started posting about my journey, I look back now at some of the posts and what I looked like back then racing, and it was pretty ridiculous, especially where I live. No other moms are doing that, right? And my kids were kind of like, Mom, no mom's in like a cycle kit cycling around here. I live in this small little town, almost to Alabama in Georgia, and it's not cool like California, where I just came from, where everyone's cycling and doing it. Like no one's mom does these things. It's, it's crazy. But do that, purge that. Don't be trying to live your life either trying to live up to other people's expectations of what they think you should be doing. Sometimes people say, well, don't you feel bad sometimes taking the training hours, your kids going to watch your events? Usually it's the other way around. Usually people are chasing their kids around all their soccer events. And believe me, with 5 kids, we did plenty of that. But here's my answer to them. I'm like, you know what? You can tell your kids all you want. You can be anything you want to be. You can go follow your dreams. You can do anything. But if they don't see you chasing your dreams, they don't see you failing and getting up and going again. Lessons are caught, not taught. And now, what I do is something my kids think is so cool now. They kind of got on the bandwagon once I got better, once I started going to championships, but that's okay, right? Now they're proud of me. Now they think it's cool, but they saw that journey, of me chasing something, especially, I remember one time my son brought me in and he was like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, you're never going to be good at this. Like, it's taking so many hours. Don't you realize you're like old? And I was like, dude, I'm chasing 3 sports. I'm not just trying to learn how to run. I'm not just trying to learn how to cycle. I'm not just trying to learn how to swim. I'm trying to learn how to do all 3 sports. That's a lot. And it's going to take a lot of time, but be patient. I promise, I promise that it's going to pay off. So, it's been neat to see them, just change and shift their perspective. And that's what I tell, that's why we want to do the sisterhood. That's why we want to remind the women, take the time for you, take the time for the self-care. Don't feel selfish getting in your physical activity, chasing your dreams. So many women lose their identity in raising the kids and having the kids. And then when the kids are gone, they're like, what do I have left? right? You have to take care of you. And that's why we want, community of women. I mean, women from all spectrums. When I'm hearing about this tech, I'm like, how about one of those bands? Maybe it'll work when I'm running. That sounds so cool. And we're talking a lot about the menopause in women's performance in sports. And, like there's just so many aspects. Think about it. When we all come together and we all collaborate from all our different passions, and we can all feed off of each other and encourage each other, we get the best from all, right? And we get all these different perspectives, all these different, diverse outlooks, and that's what this is about. And that's why we're creating the Sisterhood for Success. So I encourage all of you, your faith, right? Your physical, and then also just purge so that at the end you're doing what you want to do for you, and there's not all this extrinsic influence on you, because that's going to leave you flat on your face when things get hard.
Okay, so one thing, I just wanted to recognize someone tonight, and I don't know if Kelly left. Kelly Merbler, she probably left. Oh, Kelly! I'm so sorry. It's been so long. Okay, Kelly, come up on the stage. So we're talking about community and women and coming together, and this woman has built an incredible community over the past few years. I'd like her to tell you a little bit about her story, and then we're going to honor another woman. And so I'm going to give the mic to Kelly. I know it's late, but please tell us a little bit about what's happening.
That was excellent, Joy. Thank you. And I'm so connected with my faith too, so it really resonated with me because it's number one. So thank you. And can we give a hands up for Cindy here? Yeah, because she's pretty freaking amazing. But I will not be that person that holds you from getting to bed. But basically, I'm just honored to be here, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. There's a couple of women in here too that have been so supportive of me, Nikki Caboose and Maggie Solomon. I just want to say thank you, because that's what this is all about. And I just met, so I just met another wonderful woman last week, Lenny. I just want to say hi to Lenny too. I just met her during Coffee with Kelly. That is a community that I've been developing for a few years. Maggie was the original Coffee with Kelly member that we had. But I'm very passionate about women and leadership and inspiring women and helping women get where they want to go. I would never be where I am today if I didn't have great women that have put a hand out for me to help me step up and go after things that I wanted to do. So that's why when Cindy called and said, would you like to be a part of this? I said, sign me up. What do I need to do? And I just am grateful, because the stories tonight are what Sisterhood is all about. And your story about your daughter, just you are a beautiful mother. And so just thank you for your vulnerability tonight and what you poured into us to help us understand what love really is. But tonight is all about all of you. I'm not here to give a keynote. I'm here to help celebrate someone. And Cindy, I don't want to take that away from her. So let's
bring Crystal up to the stage. So, yeah. Oh, let me I'll go grab. I have to grab something for Crystal. But Crystal, if you could just give us a little snippet about your story, and then we have a couple special things for you.
Yeah, you got it. Be careful. Those shoes are pretty high.
I know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Crystal looks amazing.
My mic is dead. You might have to go through your mic, Crystal. Hi. My name is Crystal. This is my first time on stage, first time in a group. I'm kind of glad it narrowed down to a little bit. My journey. I've had a long journey. I've been on my own for 2 years of 18 years of domestic violence. I've lost 4 children at birth because of the abuse. It took my brother to get me out of the trauma in the marriage. He lost his life for me to get out, but I'm grateful for that. In 2016, my world changed. I had my angel. She's my world. She's now 7 years old. She does have to visit her dad on the weekends, which tears me apart. But if I'm strong, then she's strong. And if I can stand up here and be 6 feet, well, I am 6 feet, but stand taller than 6 feet, then I could teach her how to do the same thing. And I met Cindy. I live in supportive housing now with my daughter, and I have a lot of disabilities health-wise. And through the Homeless Coalition, they were doing a computer pilot program on Udemy. And for the less fortunate that didn't have the essentials of getting computer and Wi-Fi and things like that. So I took the course, and it was a 10-week program, and you're supposed to then do, I believe, 10 hours a week on the program. And I got on there, and it was just like magical. It's like everything that I looked at, all the lectures and everything, and I was like, wow, you could really go somewhere with this. If you set your mind, you can get out of where you're at. So I did 38 courses. Some courses were 28 hours a course. Some of them were 2 hours a course, but I stuck with it, and it was my motivation. And it was also a distraction. I didn't have to think about my past. I didn't have to think of where I was. I could be in that computer and be where I want to be. So I did it, and I was the #1 grand prize winner, and I got an Amazon gift card of $1,500. And I ain't seen money in forever. $1,500. Amazon, wow. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get it. So, the screen you could touch, and I got it all filled up, and I'm like, yeah, this is cool. And then I sat back and I thought, of all the things that I put in my shopping cart are things that sit around the house, things that I want, but where is it going to get me? So I deleted about half of it, and I said, you know what? I'm going to invest in something that is going to help me for my future. And within that, I got me a camera. I've had the eye for photography. I've always wanted one. And I asked, as a little kid, for a camera. Asked my mother, no. Asked my husband, yeah, right. So I said, you know what? I'm doing it for me. Nobody else wants to give it to me. I have to go out and get it for my own. I had the opportunity to do it, and I did it. And I practice. I'm, fairly new at it, but practice makes perfect, as we've heard tonight. And the willpower of not giving up. And I chose my company name to be Flashy Snaps Photography.
I love it.
Thank you.
Hired tonight to do photographs too, right?
Yes.
So she's been around taking photos.
I have.
So I work with Sean Shea, and Joy knows him as well. His company donated 10 laptops to the Homeless Coalition, and he's the one that put the program together for the Homeless Coalition. And then yesterday, I believe you went to Dress for Success, right?
Yes.
And they also helped you put a wardrobe together.
My
right?
outfit.
I love it.
Yes. And it's an amazing profit or organization. It is phenomenal. I went in there, I wasn't dressed what I thought I should be dressed like going into there. And the lady's like, okay, well, what about this? And I'm like, I'm not comfortable in wearing that. She said, don't look in the mirror, just put it on. Like, don't you look at yourself in the mirror after you put it on? She says, you don't have to. I'm like, well, how do you know that you look good? She goes, if you have the confidence that you look good, it don't matter what you have on. Stand with your head tall and walk out.
I love it.
And that's what I did.
So Lori has an amazing community that we mentioned, and you want to share a little bit about what you're going to provide to
Sure. Crystal. So Crystal, you're what this is all about. I mean, truly, this is amazing. And I love how you referenced with Amazon that there were things you put in the cart that truly weren't things they were nice to have, but they weren't something that could be long lasting. And so when Cindy called me, she said, I want to tell you about Crystal. She's this amazing woman and she's going to Dress for Success. And I'm a huge supporter of Dress for Success. And I do a lot of work with them as one of my give back partners. And I think back about a time where in my corporate life, what you were saying, I lost my identity. I thought I was always supposed to be what other people said I was supposed to be, but I lost that true self of who am I? And there was someone that really gave me borrowed belief that I could do anything I wanted to do. And I didn't have that in myself at that time because I'd always been told, well, we can't do that right now. And it's not the right time. And I don't think you're the right person. But that one person that saw something in me and didn't read my resume, but just talked to me and understood me and helped me learn what my true innate strengths were within me by asking me questions. That changed my whole life and gave me the courage to say, if someone sees something in me, then there must be something there. And then I needed to find it for myself. So I always said, because that one person did something for me that truly gave me the confidence and the courage to find out who I truly am and the value that I bring, I would always pay it forward. Because that's what life is about. It's about giving back what you can't take with you, but you can leave in other people. And the moment I heard about you, I said, I want to know you. And I want to give you what was given to me, and that's mentorship. And that's the ability to have someone to call and just ask about business or entrepreneurship. And I want to help you do what really helped me most, which was discover my strengths. And so that's a lot of the work I do with executives and women in organizations and entrepreneurs. And I want to give that to you so you can understand the true gift and the true beauty that you have within you that you may not even realize what's in you. And I want to help unleash that so you can just become the best version of who you were meant to be and the gifts that God gave you. And so if you'll accept I feel like I'm proposing. I'll get down on a knee.
Like, give her the final rose.
Will you accept my roses to allow me to mentor you, Crystal? You're welcome.
You couldn't ask for a more amazing mentor in Kelly's community. I'm sure we'll tell you about that too and welcome you into the community. And I wanted to invite Kelly, our other Kelly up
Kelly
too.
Boyle.
Kelly Boyle, because Kelly also said she would provide something for Crystal too.
Kelly, K squared.
This is a Kelly squared group, yes. So awesome. So thank you all. And I'm so excited to be here and talking with you all and helping Crystal. So yes, I heard the story as well from Cindy a few days ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, what can I do as well? So I said, I'm a Kelly, I should give. And I love giving, and giving is really important to me and giving back. And I always am like, anybody says there's an event going on, how can I help? Okay. Or any charity or anything. And so I'm just like always willing to help others. And I also give back to the community doing financial education programs all throughout the community for different corporations. But I think the one-on-one impact that you can have when you can actually meet with somebody one-on-one and say, okay, here's how I can help you and what I can do to make sure that you're successful. This is not just number one, I believe believing in yourself, putting yourself out there, having that confidence, but also once you do have the confidence and you start bringing in money and you start realizing, well, wait a minute, how can I use this for the future and make sure that I'm putting myself in a good position to be successful. And so my
7-year-old.
yes, and for your 7-year-old as well. So to me, that's really important, is making sure you have the tools and resources to make that happen. And I'm also happy to propose. I'm just afraid if I get down and I might fall or something. So I'm not going to get down on my but I would be honored to help you make sure you achieve your dreams and goals going forward if you would accept my proposal as well. Okay, awesome.
Yes. Thank you, Kelly. Can we get a photo, Jim? And then, yeah, so Crunchy also is going to be providing some goodies for Crystal and Anushka as well. They're going to do a makeover. Or a pamper day, I guess I should say. Well, thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Kelly.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Of course.
Thank you.
Of course.
Good job, Kelly.
Thank you.